This is a recording of the special meeting of the Ohio Vendors Representative Committee meeting held by telephone on December 29, 2020.
So, we'll get started. We'll do a roll call. I don't know who all's on here. So, we'll get started. Kelsey, are you with us to take notes?
Yep, I'm here, Madam Chair.
All right. Thanks. Well, I'm here, Annette Lutz. Tom, Neil, are you here? Okay. What about Frank Regassa?
Annette, I'm sorry, I can't hear anything. There appears to be children in the background.
Yeah, we'll try and get folks as soon as roll call here. We'll try and get folks to get muted. Frank Regassa, are you here?
Yes.
Okay. Scott Allen?
Yes, good morning.
Morning, Scott.
Jeff Toll?
Yep.
Okay, Jeff's here. What about Jim Davis?
Jim is
Okay,
here. Sorry, they're my kids.
Oh, Jim? Okay, good morning. What about Larry Danfoulis? Okay. Let's see if Larry's here. What about, as we'll get into alternates, is Dean Hamilton here since Larry didn't come on? Okay. Doug Brusso, we know you're here. John Canady?
Yes, ma'am.
Christopher Douglas? Christopher here? What about Keith Trammell? Or Dave Regassa? Okay. What BSBI or Bureau staff are here today?
Sally's here. Christy's here.
Sally and Christy.
Amy is here.
Amy, good morning. Okay, anybody else? Rick? Okay.
Madam Chair, I think Greg's coming after his 9 o'clock meeting, so
okay.
He'll be hopping on in the next probably half an hour.
Okay, sounds good. And now we'll go get into operators. Are there any Toledo operators on here? No. What about Cleveland? Or Akron Canton?
Mike Russell.
Morning, Mike.
Good morning.
What about Zanesville? Oh, okay.
Yvette
Isaac,
Shackelford. Yvette Shackelford.
Yvette, I think there was a. Okay, Dave. That's the one we missed. Dave. Anybody else from Zanesville? Okay, what about Columbus?
John Decker, Giorgio.
Good morning, John.
Morning.
Any other Columbus operators? Okay, what about Dayton? Okay, and Cincinnati?
Derek.
Morning, Derek.
Oh, no.
Any other operators that think you may have got missed? All right, do we have any other guests on here?
Annette, Ethan Gregory with the Ohio Attorney General's office.
Good morning, Ethan.
Morning.
And Madam Chair, it's Vicki. I apparently was muted earlier.
Oh, good morning, Vicki.
Good morning.
Anybody else? Okay. Real quick public comment. I had one request. I did not hear her during the roll call though, so we'll see if she's here. Laura Cole. Okay.
Yeah, Julie Russell here. I couldn't get unmuted.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Julie. Okay. So I guess we'll get into the, did anyone
Hold it,
else
I
have?
sent you a,
Did
I sent
anybody
you
else?
a text to do a public comment, Madam Chair.
Oh, I didn't see that, but no, that's fine, Mike. Go ahead. Then the floor is
Okay,
yours.
mine's more of a question for Greg and Christy. Christy said we got enough money from BSBI to pay the staff through June, and I wondered if we borrowed any more money or, you know, for the staff or anything else from BSBI, and are we going to have to pay it back? And thank you very much.
Okay, Mike. Christy, do you want to respond, or you just want to?
Yeah, Madam Chair, we've not borrowed any more money, and we still think that we're going to be fine. But I just wanted to follow up. Maria, the finance manager, will be at our January 8th meeting.
Okay,
so
good.
She can answer a lot of these questions as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, was there anyone else who wanted to do a public comment?
Madam Chair, can I make one really quick?
Yes, John.
Thank you. I am a little bit concerned about the way the policy is being used for setting up sites where we need temps. The site that we just set up as a temp was done until the end of June. Typically, when we do temp sites, they're done so that we can determine sales. Well, the sales at that location is very well known. It's been going on for a while, and there are people that are out of work that need work, and that should not be temp for 6 months. I understand it was done so that the person would be able to deal with the janitorial fees. However, that could have been done differently. For example, if they tempted it for 1 month, the bureau could have paid the janitorial fees as part of dealing with the expense. And I'm just not happy with the way that was done at all. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
What location is it, John?
The one in Akron that just came open.
Yeah, I've heard some other concerns about that, John, and we will, today we're got the rules. I don't know that we're gonna get into that necessarily unless one of the reps feel we should, but it's definitely something we should get on the agenda on temps, especially during the current situation, for an upcoming meeting that's not a special meeting. So we'll tend to that. Did anybody else have a public comment? Okay. Well, we will get into the rules then. Just so everybody knows, I do have a new Braille copy of the most current rules. Christy, we did, last time we did, oh, I forget what we did last time. We talked about
Rule 12, wasn't it?
No, we haven't done Rule 12. We did that back in September. Rule 10.
I know we did 10. We did 10.
Yeah, and it looks like this version I have does have the changes we discussed in Rule 10. So this is pretty up to date.
Yeah.
So, as far as this pass through, and I will say I read through. I didn't get through 100% of them when I got them, but I read through a lot of them, and they look like a lot of the things we talked about have been addressed throughout the rules. I know we still have rules 5 and 6 to go through another time, and then I believe 12, 13, and 14. I don't know that we've gone through this most recent pass. So, oh, and the definitions and stuff, we still have to do those. So, I guess we might as well jump into it and get to Rule 5. Unless somebody has another suggestion or would like to make another suggestion, we can do this.
Sounds good.
Yes. Tom? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Tom said something. I must be hearing something. All right. Rule 5 is equipment, supplies, and initial inventory. The draft I have, okay, all equipment as defined in 3304-121-1 is owned by BE and shall remain the property of BE at all times, including after the termination of a bureau operator agreement or temporary bureau operator agreement. And as always, if somebody wants to, whenever you want me to stop, someone has a question or comment, concern, we'll do that. All right, equipment shall only be moved or transported by BE program personnel or a third party hired by the BE program, but may be moved by an operator if they have received written permission from their BE consultant. The BE program shall be responsible for maintenance that is required to keep equipment operational. Cleaning and general upkeep of equipment shall be the responsibility of the operator as specified in the Bureau Grantor Agreement for each facility. I had a question about that. Do our Bureau Grantor Agreements specify stuff? I thought that was kind of a weird statement. I could be wrong, but I don't have a problem with the cleaning and general upkeep being the responsibility of the operator. I was just questioning the specified in the Bureau Grantor Agreement part of it.
Would it not make more
Madam
sense
Chair,
to the Bureau Operator Agreement?
Vicki, Sally, are you on here? Can you? I'm confused as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that our grantor agreements kept, I don't know. I mean, it probably doesn't harm nothing being there, I guess, but
Madam Chair,
I don't know. Yes.
when Scott and I were reviewing the Bureau agreements a few months ago, some of them did list what equipment was in the facility. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, some of them address that, but we already have to comply with things that are in the Bureau Grantor Agreements as part of the rules already. So I don't know. I didn't know what they
So,
were.
Madam Chair, some of them do and some of them don't.
Okay. I guess it's okay. All equipment shall be identified as BE property and inventoried according to OOD policies and procedures. Notwithstanding the above, all vending and other specified equipment shall be affixed with an asset tag identifying that the machine is owned by the BE program. BE shall provide each suitable vending facility or site with an initial inventory taking into account the items typically sold in the facility or site and any applicable provisions in the Bureau Grantor Agreement regarding items that are appropriate for the facility or site. The suitable vending facility has been established. Once the suitable vending facility has been established, BE may provide additional equipment in its discretion after evaluating the business need. The operator shall do all of the following with regards to the initial inventory, stock, and supplies. Sign a form to acknowledge the value of the initial inventory provided by BE. Purchase any stock and supplies necessary for the ongoing operation of the facility. Maintain the stock and supplies on hand at an appropriate level for the facility or site, and following any applicable provisions in the Bureau Grantor Agreement regarding items that are appropriate for the facility or site, and complete a detailed report of BE-owned stock and supplies on hand and report the amount with the December and June monthly operating reports and retain these reports for 6 months after the date of submission. This detailed report is not required when there is a facility closing within 30 days prior to the date of either the December or June monthly operating report. Additional detailed reports of stock and supplies may be required when BE determines necessary for reasonable business purposes. I would say the word closing and that should be transitioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes.
it's Jeff. So are we hanging on to this June thing for some reason? I mean, we're no longer going to be measuring people's efficiency in the selection. I mean, for tax purposes, we should be taking inventory once a year for sure. I'm, that's just good business. I don't understand the need for this one in June. Maybe the Bureau has a reason for holding on to it, or maybe it's just there because it's been there forever, literally, so maybe Christy or someone could speak to that.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
remember when we talked about this the first 2 times, again, we cannot validate the semi-annual inventory. So we were even on board with taking them out. The problem is, I'm getting feedback.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of noise.
I believe the problem is that it's in the Ohio Revised. Okay, I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's because it's in the Ohio Revised Code that it is a requirement to have a semi-annual review, and that is why we had to put it back in there. And in order to take it out, we would have to open up the law.
I think that was it. I think we looked that up at the one of these other times, and it does say there has to be. I think that makes it compliant with the law.
Okay, I didn't remember us talking about that, but I mean, I did remember us talking about it, but I didn't know what the final resolution on it was. Just, I just don't find them particularly useful, but if it's there for compliance, it needs to be there.
I'm trying to find the exact law, and when you need to put your hand on it, it's never there, but
Of course not.
it's there.
I remember it being read.
Yeah.
When we talked about this before, that there was something specifically in the law that says the inventory had to be reviewed or.
Christy, it's fine. I just was asking again, so that's fine.
Yeah. Yep.
I do
an
think
inventory shall be made. Yeah, an inventory shall be made of each suitable vending facility at least once every 6 months. That's 3304.30.
Okay. I'm wondering, well, I guess it doesn't hurt anything. I was just wondering if we should put that language instead of being specific about June and December. But I guess that could muddy things up a little bit. This way we know when people did them. So,
Madam Chair, that might make it difficult to maintain in OBG.
yeah, I was just thinking that may be. As I'm thinking about it, it's probably better to keep it the way it is. I do think the word, when it's talked about, it says This detailed report is not required when there is a facility closing. We should probably put transition.
Okay, but Madam Chair, can we do that? I mean, what Christy just read kind of indicates that you got to do it.
Yeah, but they did it when there's the transition.
Okay.
Right.
As part of the transition, they would have done one.
All right, Madam Chair, Rick here. So I'm going to change when there is a facility closing to when there is a facility transitioning.
Yeah, transition within 30 days prior to the date of either the December or June monthly operating report.
Done.
Okay, all right. Upon leaving a facility or site, an operator shall reconcile their stock and supplies on hand with the initial inventory in one of the following ways. Pay the BE program for the difference in value between their stock and supplies on hand and their initial inventory if their stock and supplies on hand are worth less than the initial inventory provided by BE, or receive a credit from the BE program for the difference in value between their stock and supplies on hand and their initial inventory if their stock and supplies on hand are worth more than the initial inventory provided by BE. And that so ends Rule 5.
So, Madam Chair, this is where we want to incorporate the proposed process and add stuff into this rule about payback, about working with the local selection committee on what is an appropriate inventory. So this is where we need to dive into the proposal that we all sent you guys earlier this month.
Well, I guess,
I mean, look, Madam Chair, it's Jeff. So, Christy, yes. I appreciate the fact that you guys tried to answer some of the questions. There's just still a lot that leaves us concerned about these transitions and protecting the outgoing operator. You know, I don't know how we are going to begin to work into the rules I don't want to call it judgment call, but, you know, the whole concept of, well, they may want some of my inventory, but they may not want some of it. You know, and again, I'm not worried about me. I'm not really worried about long-term operators who probably aren't really going anywhere anytime soon. But it does concern me when we get a lot of hopscotching when people, you know, are moving facility to facility. We do seem to get that in this program. You know, we'll have a bunch of transitional stuff, and then we'll have dry periods. I'm just really worried about how this whole thing looks. This payback thing looks really messy to me from the operator standpoint. A lot of the operators that have spoken out about this are concerned about, you know, cash flow and the initial decision of how long is it going to take to pay this back and what the amount's going to be. I mean, I say again, I really wish we could try to develop a policy around something like this rather than stick it in the rules, because then that just gives us no flexibility, you know. And I understand where you guys be coming from. Well, we need it to have teeth and all that, but I'm really reluctant to do this. You know, I do see the benefits in it for the program, but I see it as being a very chaotic thing. And really, even from an administrative standpoint, you guys might be managing something that you wished you hadn't taken on with all these repayments and operators fighting over, you know, well, I don't want credit for that, or hey, I should have got credit for that, and the person said they wanted it, and then now they don't want to pay me for it. I'm really struggling with how this is different from what we currently do. The only thing that's different to me is we're switching it from inventory to cash, essentially, because you're going to have to help people as a program, be it, you know, a loan or whatever. My inventory, my initial inventory is a loan. It is a long-term loan, and I understand that. You know, I just wonder if maybe a better approach would be for, you know, if we want to go this direction, is to have everybody pay back over a period of time their initial inventories. And then that way, and the Bureau still accepts full responsibility for these transitions, because I just think it's really going to be messy. And maybe it's just me, anyone else can chime in, but that's the part I'm concerned about. I don't mind paying you guys for my inventory over time. That's not a big deal for me. And it may be for some people though, but you know, this whole thing just could lead us in some really weird direction. That's it.
Madam Chair.
We've talked a lot to, I know many of us have talked to a whole lot of different operators about this. Some of us have held meetings. Some of us have talked to folks individually. That transition thing is what Jeff just notated is the big concern out there that I don't think we're ready to, at least I'm not ready to sign off on yet, because that's the problem. That transition thing is chaotic. It's going to be a disaster, to be honest. And like Jeff said, not too many people had a problem with the payback part of it. But the transitional part of it is just, it's honestly ill-conceived. I don't see it working.
So, Madam Chair, I've talked to, like, Wisconsin, they do it this way. I think Michigan does it this way. I think some other states, and I'm still trying to gather information, are a hybrid. I guess my question is, okay, so the payback is fine. Is the problem with the transition, it's between the two operators and people are worried about getting stiffed on cash transfer? Is that the problem?
That's one of the problems.
Madam Chair.
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead,
yeah, I was
Jeff.
going to say, Christy, let me lay this out for you. So I'm probably, closer to retirement than a lot of people. So let's say I'm retiring from the facility, or I'm going to, I'll give you two that'll roll together, or I'm going to a facility that does not sell the same type of product that I'm currently selling, which we do have a lot of different places in this program. So right now, from the sound of this, the incoming operator who's taking my job is not obligated to take all of my inventory, if any of it. So if I'm either going to a place where I can't dispose of this inventory, or I'm retiring and have no way to get rid of it, I've got two choices. I can either eat the loss, which would be thousands and thousands of dollars, or I can run the inventory down to nothing, thereby possibly risking the customer service, risking your agreement with the grantor, because I'm, as a business person or a person, period, I'm not going to get stuck because somebody comes in and says, oh, I don't want any of his stuff, and we're opening the door. That's why I said earlier, if the Bureau would still be responsible for making the outgoing operator whole, and say, whatever inventory is sellable, when we count it, you're going to get credit for it one way or another. We're going to back that. The Bureau is going to be responsible for that. I would feel better about it. I still think there's some unanswered questions about the payback, but I think people would feel better if they knew that that the Bureau is still backing them up on maintaining this inventory. Because you folks, from an administrative standpoint, you want us to maintain good service to the customers. Someone else is taking this business over, and I don't want to leave somebody in the lurch, but by the same token, I don't want to get left hanging either. So I know it sounds kind of selfish, but that's what it comes down to. As you pointed out, or maybe it was someone else, we already have squabbles over inventories when new operators, oh, I don't want their crap, well, that's fine. It's been like that for decades. We always seem to work it out. I know the Bureau sometimes ends up eating some of that, and that's too bad.
A lot.
Yeah, I get that, but that's partly the program's responsibility right now.
Yeah,
and I know that's what you're trying to get away from.
I think we've created this problem. I admit that, but I think that there needs to be guardrails up, like with the outgoing. When you say make them whole, I agree that they should be made whole on like similar products than what they were originally given. But when people make choices to branch out and try different things, they want to be made whole on those choices, and then the new person does not want to take on those risks. And I don't think that the program should either. I think that they're, you know, when you say like products, and I understand vending, I mean, it should be similar. I understand a convenience store or a open food is a little different, but we need to have guardrails up. And I'm open to us being the mediator with the money, but I'm sorry. I think the outgoing, if it is out there and it's not, you know, normal stock and inventory, and that they went out and they purchased stuff that they thought might make them money and it didn't, that has to be the burden of the program to then take that product on and make them whole.
Well, I think you're oversimplifying the problem, Christy, because I choose to sell larger size chips and the incoming person says, no, I only want small chips because I'm going to, you know, those are similar products, okay? But they are different. You know, someone may not want to sell a lot of bottled beverage, and I've got a lot of bottled beverage. They may want to do cans. That's their privilege. I don't think it's fair to the outgoing operator to say, well, you're carrying these items that this person doesn't want, and they're totally different. So you got to. I know where you're coming from. You're coming from those oddball things that someone may choose to have a convenience store vending machine, you know, that dispenses a lot of sundries and stuff, or what have you. I get that, you know. But I got to tell you, I think most of that is isolated. When you talk about someone wanting to change a product line, that's their problem. You know, if I've got large chips, fine, run them out and then switch to your other product. But if the Bureau's position is, well, if you're carrying different type items, that is way too broad of a statement. And I apologize, Tom. That's it, though. Thanks.
Go ahead,
so,
Tom.
Madam Chair,
I know Tom had something too, and I know you want to answer,
Yes,
Christy.
Madam Chair. We've been working on the current rule package for 2 years. We're now on our third and fourth passes through that package. We still have some things we don't 100% agree on, and we're still trying to hammer out. We've been told by the Bureau several times that it's important that we act quickly to get these rules through. Now here we are trying to not only incorporate whole new sections into our rules package, but figure out how those sections should be structured and what the pitfalls of all this are. That doesn't make sense to me. If we're in a hurry to get this rules package through, why are we now? We've been discussing this for 2 years. This is the first we've heard about restructuring how inventory is handled. And now all of a sudden we have to get this done in 2 meetings. And as a member of this committee, I say that's very irresponsible. It's very irresponsible to make such huge changes to our program that we don't even understand yet and try to incorporate them into a rules package on such short notice. We've been informed by the Bureau's legal and by other Bureau staff that we can revisit rules anytime we want. If we find there's something broken, we can revisit it. We can make changes to it outside of the 5-year review period. So why don't we move forward with the packages that we've been working on for all this time, try to get that moved through, and if the Bureau would like to revisit this, so we can certainly talk about it and we can try to hammer some of these things out. But right now, just the back and forth between the Christy and Jeff shows there's a lot of questions, and that's just Jeff. There's a lot more committee members, there's a lot of operators that have a lot of concerns that we are not going to be able to address in 2 meetings to my satisfaction. And that's all, Madam Chair.
Thanks. Christy?
Madam Chair, this is Greg.
Well, Christy had the floor, but if she yields to you, Greg, that's...
You can go. I don't know. I wanted to respond to Jeff.
Okay, so let me, you know, sorry, I just got on a few minutes ago. I was at another meeting, but, you know, I think, and Tom, I appreciate you bringing this up, and Annette, that, you know, in a call recently with Director Miller and Annette and myself, you know, we had talked about this, and that, you know, why don't we focus on finishing up the rules package and put the inventory on the side for a minute, and continue some research and discussion. So, you know, I agree with Tom that, you know, we've gotten a lot of this stuff close. Why don't we try to finish these up, and then we can continue the discussion on changing inventory and erasing the initial inventory debt.
I'm good with that. I think that's the best way to go. We can address this at a later time. Anybody else have?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Doug.
before we leave this discussion, I just would like to know, maybe it was last meeting or the meeting before, Derek was on the line and he was advocating that the state continue with the present program that they're on because it's in the federal law that the SLA has to be responsible for the inventory. So my question is how are you going to deal with that?
Well, right now we're not going to. We're going to.
Right, I get that. I get that and that. You know, but generally, you know, what's the plan for getting around the law, or is there any thought process at this point in time for that?
Well, I think there's some. Go ahead, Christy.
So, like Texas, they give initial inventory for the very first opportunity that you get. That's it. You don't have to pay it back, but that's it. But if you then move to another one, like you're expected to go out and get a small business loan, you know, the law says that the initial inventory for your first, either the person's first place or that the facility you're opening up for the very first time. So there's different ways of doing it. And just to address what Jeff said is, I do think that there's onus on the incoming operator to take those products, even if it's not exactly what they want. I think that it's not all on the outgoing that needs to be stocked, but I think that we need to work that out. And, you know, I thought that, you know, we presented a proposal, and I don't know, I thought that you guys would have a counter proposal.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, Tom.
I've heard a couple times today that we're going to use other states as our guide in how we proceed with this, and I feel that this is another example of us cherry picking what we like from other states and ignoring what we don't, because I'm pretty sure Texas pays less service charge than we do here in Ohio. I know for a fact there's other states that provide medical benefits to their operators, retirement programs, vacation time. So we can't pick the things that we like from other states and say, well, this state does it, why don't we? When it works out in the Bureau's favor, but when it works out in the operator's favor, well, we don't do that in Ohio. We can use other states as a guide, but we don't have to use them as an outline for how we run our program. And if we're going to do that, then let's start doing some things that benefit operators instead of hurting them.
Thank you, Tom. So, I like the proposal that we leave things alone for now. And then we can always address this. Let's get these rules done. Other than this, there's some odds and ends in it, but we've come a long way, and I think we're getting pretty close. Let's just leave it how it is for now, and we can address it later if everybody wants to.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Frank? Was that Frank?
It's Derek. I'm sorry, it's Derek.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Derek.
Just for clarification's sake, I'm not sure that you guys are on the same page necessarily. Are you talking about postponing this till later in the rules discussion before the rules get codified? Or are you talking about leaving this alone until the rules have been codified and then at a later date taking it back up? There's a huge difference there, and I'm not sure you guys are on the same page.
No, I think we are on the same page. And Greg or Christy say the second thing you said, Derek, is where my thoughts are, that we put these rules through the process as we come to agree. I'm like Rule 5. We'll use Rule 5 for an example. If nobody has any other problem with Rule 5, we leave it like this draft states it is, which is the old, current way of doing things. And then at some later time, after these have gone through the process, we've turned them over to to JCAR and to RSA and all of that. If we want to pick this discussion up then later, we can do so for a new rules thing after this one. That way, everyone on the same page for that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Greg. Sorry,
Yes.
I was talking while I was muted again. Yes, we are on the same page that to make sure we are getting things in timely with JCAR, but allowing us, knowing that we can continue this discussion, and if we submit a change, even after we've submitted.
The internet connection was lost at this point. The recording will resume after the connection is re-established.
In a case where an operator is unable, we always think of this as the bad rule. The operator does all these horrible bad things, and they get booted out because of it. But I always try to think of the good side of this too. If for some reason an operator is unable to continue operation of their facility due to some kind of illness or something, and wants their BOA to be suspended, is there some, I know we've had talk about this before, is there something we can do with this rule?
Madam Chair?
I heard a couple voices. I don't know who they were.
It's fine. I'll defer to whoever it was.
No, go ahead, Jeff. It was me.
Oh, okay.
I didn't announce it, Madam Chair, so.
All right.
You got there before I did.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that. So
No
I'm just
problem,
curious, does the Bureau have a problem with, say, 6 months? I know what this is. We're thinking 90 days is enough time to sort out whatever it is. And again, I don't think we're ever I hope we don't have another pandemic situation, but, if somebody had a medical, and this is what I'm thinking about, a medical condition where the Bureau had to, for the benefit of the program, seize control of the facility, because that's what this basically is, that would certainly give, if it hasn't gotten straightened around or figured out in 6 months, I would think we'd have to do what has to get done. That's just me. But I think 6 months is certainly better than 90 days if we're trying to look out for the welfare of the operator as well as the facility. But I don't have a problem with 90 days. I just,
I don't either, but I think of the, we had a situation, Frank will know about it, in Cincinnati a few years ago, where an operator was sick. They had medical issues and couldn't run their facility anymore, and a couple of other operators kind of took over, and the thought was that first operator would come back into their facility again at some point. And I don't know if he actually ever officially did or not. He's gone now, unfortunately, but I just wonder if we could do it.
No,
I like this notion of 6 months.
No, Madam Chair, he did not make it back, unfortunately, and actually, it was, and we really struggled with that because initially he was given the option of, hey, you're going to have to resign, but they worked with Jarrett Roush and me, and I think Dave ended up running it for him, and Dave and that operator kind of worked together. It was almost kind of like a sort of like a subcontracting issue, I guess you could call it, but it was worked out between the operators, and the agency knew about it, but they weren't, nobody was doing anything wrong. The facility was being taken care of and everything, but that's not always the most practical situation. But we were all hoping and praying that he would be able to come back, and it just didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But the idea was I didn't want to see somebody who was struggling with something that they may recover from be forced to resign or be out if we could find a workaround. And we did. And unfortunately, like I said, it didn't work out for him, but it was something. And if there's another thing we can do or some way we can help people who are dealing with that, who may be able to come back without having them resign or, ultimately be removed or something, I'm certainly open to that. I don't know exactly. I see what we're trying to do here. And,
Yep. Bureau folks, what are your thoughts?
Madam Chair, it's Christy. We like 6 months.
Okay. I'm good with 6 months. Rest of the committee, good with? Okay.
Madam
I
Chair,
think that's a great idea.
Madam Chair, the above language stays the, well, oh, okay, the 90-day thing. That's what I was trying to figure out. The only thing I'm concerned about is I don't want to see it turn into something to where somebody's going to be, you know, suspended for 90 days over, you know, what we're doing. If it's something that's, you know, on one hand, the Bureau is saying it's a disciplinary issue and the operator and the committee are arguing on the out. So that's the only concern I have. I was just trying to figure out a way to kind of separate the two, but I don't know if there is.
Yeah, I don't know that
Madam
we need
Chair.
to separate the two. Yes, John.
And this may be not doable, but I just wanted to throw this. Would there be any way that we could possibly consider an extension with the cooperation of the local committee, if necessary? We're obviously hoping that it would not be necessary, but if everything's running smoothly with whatever accommodations have been made, doing an evaluation of the situation, if a 2-month extension or a 3-month extension would help, I'd like to see that be considered, after the 6 months. If they see, that things are going to improve in 2 months and, unfortunately that 6 months is over and action has to be taken. I just don't know that that's a good thing.
Madam Chair, it's
Yes.
Jeff.
Jeff.
And I know where John's coming from, and I don't disagree with him, but I think you get into the weeds a little bit with some of this. There does need to be a time limit, unfortunately. I know it sucks, but if in 6 months the family, the operator, the Bureau, the local committee, if it hasn't gotten figured out in 6 months, I am a little concerned. You don't want, unfortunately, and I know John's seen this and others have, we've had situations drag on for years that frankly the program shouldn't have had to have tolerated, and the problem is it results in bad service sometimes to the customers because the business limps along and doesn't really perform the way it should. But when you take this decision thing and you put it in people's hands, and again, not that I don't want us to have a heart, but you might have people making decisions with their emotions instead of with their common sense and say, well, we have to do what's best for the business after a certain point. And that's all. I mean, I would support what John's saying. I just think it complicates the situation a little bit. You get into judgment calls and things of that nature. And well, you gave it to John, but you didn't give it to Jeff, or you didn't give it to Scott. What's the difference? You know what I mean? It just,
Madam Chair and Jeff,
Yes.
if I may, I appreciate where you're coming from, Jeff, and I agree. But, you could resolve that by simply making a cap of 1 extension. I mean, just and not allowing it to drag on for years.
I'm trying to think. He's suspended for any of the funds that exceed 6 months. Because this is pretty right now. The way it would read would say, "In no case shall a suspension exceed," and we would put 6 months. I'm with I see what John wants to do, and I like it because that's what the road we're going down when we started this. But boy, I'm with Jeff. I think it starts to get a little wonky after a bit.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Doug.
the word suspension, is that appropriately used in the rule, based on what we're talking about here?
Oh yeah, yeah. 'Cause it says it's not discipline, so it's just the suspending the Bureau operator agreement.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, John.
So there's nothing stopping the director of the program from canceling the suspension and then re-invoking it if he needs to or she needs to, a few days later, a couple months later. So that could avoid that problem after the 6 months if you need to do that way.
Well, that's true.
That's a good point.
I think that might be a good solution.
Yeah. So why don't we do the 6 month thing? The Bureau says they're fine with the 6 months. Why don't we do that? It's better than it is now. It's definitely a step in the right direction. So here's the reasons why. And we may want to, since we've made this change and we've discussed this, we may want to add another one to that. These are all the bad things here. When the acts or omissions of the operator places the BE in jeopardy of losing site or facility because of non-compliance with the permit contract or BGA. If the operator is absent from a site or facility, which results in the site or facility being closed in violation of the BGA. That's kind of the close one, what we were talking about. If the operator is arrested, engaging in, or indicted for criminal activity. If the operator's conduct at a site or the facility causes or allows conditions to exist which are a danger to the operator or others. Or if the operator's access to the site or facility has been revoked. So, do we need another one in there that says, if the operator is, unable to do their duties and agrees to the I don't know.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Doug.
So at the end of that statement, you could make other language which would suggest if full recovery is imminent, then an extension shall be granted.
Yeah, well, we're assuming a sickness then. Well,
that's the way we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another circumstance where somebody would get an extension.
Yeah.
If not for illness.
So, Madam Chair, this is Rick.
Yes.
I hear your concern. So I think if somebody's out because they're sick, heaven forbid they get COVID-19 or something like that, I think that would probably be covered under subsection 1 when acts or omissions of the operator places BE in jeopardy of losing the site or facility. Because if they're out, they're unable to perform, right? And if they're unable to perform, then it puts the site at risk, under the contract because we wouldn't be able to perform. So I think we're covered in that regard.
I think you could be right. I just throwing it out there if we needed something else, but I think it does cover it. Things were not getting done, so. All right. The BSBI direct. Yes.
It's Derek. I just wanted to bring up one term that's used in all that, and it's the idea of somebody being indicted. I thought we had a discussion at one time that we weren't sure we liked that term.
The operator is conducted, where is it? Arrested, engaging in, or indicted for criminal activity. That could go on a long time, an indictment. I don't know. But I don't know.
Well, I think it goes back to their ability to do the job. If you're indicted and are still able to do your job, you shouldn't necessarily, because indicted means, accused of or charged with. And that doesn't mean you're guilty of. And
no, it doesn't.
If you're able to perform your duties while indicted, you should be allowed to. I think, unless you're going to use some, moral turpitude clause at some other point and not, be willing to allow the process to. Anyway, I just thought we had discussed it at some point.
Here's the the thing I would say with the indicted, because the arrested and all that is in engaging in or indicted. It does say they may suspend. It doesn't say they shall. And I would think there could be some crimes that would, we may not want them there for. Yes, Tom.
The language in there that says arrested for. Arrested is not convicted. Arrested is not even prosecuted. Somebody could be arrested under suspicion and then be cleared of suspicion, but under that language in that rule, they could lose their facility for being misidentified as part of something. So that language is also, again, I don't know how deep in the weeds we need to go with this, but we seem to be adding things that could be detrimental to someone in the future.
Yeah, I actually have a bigger problem with arrested than indicted, to be honest.
Madam Chair, this is Rick.
Yes.
One point of distinction to think about is, you know, I think we're talking about suspensions here. We're not talking about terminating the BGA at this point. You know, so it is that intermediate stage. And I hear what you're saying. Criminal activity is very broad. You know, but there is discretion with both BSVI and OVRC in considering, you know, by using the language may suspend. You know, so there are some crimes we know that are far worse than others. That you know, the gravity of the crime, if looking at it, we may not want that person operating the facility at that time until we know more information. You know, when there's other crimes, we look at and we may say, after looking at it and say, yeah, well, you know, we think this is a small potato issue type thing. Let's proceed. You know, one of those type of things.
Yeah, I don't think it's it does say may. So anybody, well, let's go on and see what, because that is for suspension. Let's look at termination, which is the you know, the larger hammer that could come down. And the BSVI director may terminate a BOA for the following reasons: failure to satisfy the terms of a performance improvement plan as stated in Rule 10, failure of an operator to pay any fee required by the BOA, BGA, or permit, or to submit an MOR within 30 days after being informed by the BE program in writing that a fee or MOR is late, termination of the BGA, whether voluntarily or involuntary, revocation or suspension of the operator's license in accordance with Rule 13 of the Administrative Code, for reasons noted in paragraph B of this rule after active participation with the OVRC. So that's where all that other stuff comes in. Before the BOA can be terminated, it has to be with active participation of the committee. Failure of an operator to successfully complete an operator performance improvement plan. Is that a repeat?
It sounded like it.
Yeah, I think 1 and 6 is the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think C1, failure to satisfy the terms of a performance improvement plan as stated in Rule 10B would take care of that one you just read, Madam Chair.
Yeah, so yeah, we'd strike that out. BE approval, written notice of resignation by the operator to BE, or as otherwise listed in Chapter 3304-121 of the Administrative Code. So I guess that's if we missed anything. If a site or facility is, now this, I read this, listen to this, because I don't, this is wonky to me. If a site or facility is terminated by the grantor or licensee, or if a BGA is terminated due to an operator's unexcused non-performance, then the licensee is prohibited from bidding on, temporarily operating, or returning to that site or facility for a period of 3 years. I have no clue what that means. I understand they can't go there for 3 years, but I don't understand this whole, if a site or facility is terminated by the grantor or licensee. What? I don't know what that means. Or if a BGA is terminated due to an operator's unexcused non-performance, then it gets into that they're prohibited from bidding on, temporarily operating, or returning to that site or facility for a period of 3 years.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Doug.
What comes to mind is that situation we dealt with, I think, last meeting where the operator went to a canal and had an unfortunate incident which made ODOT suspend him from that facility and all ODOT facilities.
That is nothing what this says. It might be due to that, but that I don't understand this whole. Bureau folks, can you describe what this is? Because I don't know what this is.
Of that incident?
I know what that is. No, we don't need to get into that.
Never mind.
Yeah, no, I don't know what this sentence says.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Messing with my mute button again. So what this is designed to address, and you're right, this is new. I think Christy pulled it out for you when we sent it over to you maybe a week or 2 weeks ago to draw your attention to it. But what this would address is if, like it says, like a grantor terminates the BGA, under the BGA, I think it's 5.2 in most BGAs, where it talks about there's non-performance or there's non-compliance and doing something that we're aware of that is not professional, to say the least, that there is a foreseeable instance that we could imagine where the displaced operator could rebid on the facility, and for some reason nobody else wants the facility, or they still have the most points under, what is it, Rule 2, that they could be right back at that facility. And it's to address that, as well as maintaining, hopefully, or repairing a relationship with the grantor.
Okay, I get that, and I don't, if it's written right, I don't necessarily know that it's a bad thing per se, but that's not what this, that is not what this says. This is, if a site or facility is terminated by the grantor or licensee, first of all, I don't know what a site or facility being terminated means. That
I think it should be, if a BGA is terminated by the grantor or licensee, we could probably also take off the clause after that. So it could read, if a BGA is terminated by the grantor or licensee, then the licensee is prohibited from bidding on, temporarily operating, or returning to that site or facility for a period of 3 years.
I'm just not sure you can do that, Madam Chair. I don't know.
Yeah, I first of all, if the thing is terminated, there's nothing there to bid on. I mean, that means we no longer have that location.
So here's my response to that. So they could terminate a BGA, right? And we could turn around and they say, okay, well, we're going to get a private vendor in here. And we say, well, hold up. This is a federal property. We have priority here. You may not like us. You may have had a bad experience in the past. but you still need to work with us in creating a new permit or contract. Same for a university site. You know, so I think it would still be applicable. So maybe it should read if a BGA contract or permit is terminated by the grantor. So we're also including, you know, federal property in there as well.
Is terminated by a grantor. And I don't understand, or licensee. I don't know what licensees.
Yeah, we could take that out.
Yeah, I was going to say, can a licensee terminate a Bureau grantor agreement?
Sorry guys, I didn't mean to put you in there.
Yeah, due to an operator's unexcused non-performance.
I took out that. So right now, I have to
okay.
read. Sorry, I keep changing on you.
Yeah, I
I'll
was
read
just
it back
saying. So
to you.
read what
Yeah.
what.
If a BGA contract or permit is terminated by the grantor, then the licensee is prohibited from bidding on, temporarily operating, or returning to that site or facility for a period of 3 years.
Well, no, now it's too vague, because because they could be terminating the thing for nothing to do with anything the operator did wrong.
You're right. You're right. So let's see here.
Madam Chair, could we tie this to one of the other rules where the operator basically is about to enter the disciplinary system or something? Because obviously the only reason a grantor would do that is if the operator either wasn't performing his or her job in accordance with the BOA, which in turn ties them to the BGA, or I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, I know what this is. This is very well stated in the rules that if we need to get rid of an operator who's a problem or the grantor doesn't like them, all the grantor has to do is cancel the BGA. We remove the operator because it's in the rules that if we don't have a BGA, the operator loses their BOA. That gets rid of the operator. You sign a new BOA or BGA, and boom, you know, the operator's out of there in accordance with this rule as well. You keep them out. So you get them out with the cancellation of the BGA. You keep them out for 3 years with this rule. That's exactly what this is designed to do, in my opinion. You know, this is designed to, because this arbitrary 3-year thing, a grantor may say, as ODOT did, never in the future. Well, in these rules, you could, the operator could come back on the bureau and make the argument, hey, it's been 3 years, I can go back. You know, now I don't know if that would be successful, but I see it as kind of cutting both ways. But I do understand what they're trying to accomplish. I'm not necessarily agreeing with it, but I do know what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm almost worried that it's some kind of knee-jerk reaction to what happened. Doug was right in that. I think that's what this is, and I really hate the notion of putting stuff in the rules on a knee-jerk reaction. We were able, under our current rules, to deal with the situation.
So, Madam Chair, this is Greg.
Yes.
So this isn't a knee-jerk reaction to the recent incident at the rest area. Some of this was brought about from another situation or other situations that have gone on. And we're trying to have a rule that allows us to help us, number one, if there's an issue, have some, because we've had discussions, you know, about when there's a problem, we don't have a lot of options when there are issues. And number two, it allows us to help preserve the site moving forward because, you know, one of the things that comes up on a couple of these is, you know, it is about the operator and they don't want to continue, but we can say, no, we have priority and, you know, we will have somebody else that can come in and take over. You, as Rick had said, he said it much better than I just did. So this isn't a knee-jerk reaction to what happened a week or two ago. This is kind of resulting from, and we've had several conversations about this, you know, about needing to be able to take some action at times when it is warranted, when the situation is very serious and we are in jeopardy of losing a facility or a site.
I think I gotcha what this is in response to. Now we need to, I'm with Jeff. Can we tie this to some other rule though?
And Madam Chair, the 3-year thing. I mean, I don't know if that accomplishes. Who's to say the grantor wants them back in 3 years? I mean, you know, but yet you're putting it in the rule that that in our rules they can go back in 3 years.
And Madam Chair, I'm just going to point this out, and some people may or may not like this, but I also kind of think this is almost tying the operator's hands from any type of, you know, if they feel necessary to take it through the grievance process. They're going to say, well, we have this rule, you know, you can't. And I'm trying to see it from both sides here, but I also want the operator to have due process in this process as well, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Obviously, if we were to agree to this, the language needs to be cleaned up a lot, which I know, Rick, you were trying to do. But I almost wonder that there should be some kind of terms. It should be, you know, something like, you know, due to the things outlined in, and I don't even like that, to be honest, in, you know, Part B, you know, for the I don't know. I don't like that either, to be honest. But I don't want this to be too vague.
Yeah, Madam Chair, one option is, you know, we say if a BGA contract or permit is terminated by the grantor because of an operator's failure to comply with the BGA. You know, everybody, I think, is given a BGA at the time they start, you know, operating that facility. That might be the most transparent way to do that. And then regarding the period of 3 years, you know, if we're happy to entertain, you know, a period that you guys think would be better.
Non-compliance with BGA has to be terminated due to that reason.
Right.
I see what you're doing, and I think you know, and I get it. I hate it when we have some bad apples who, you know, I don't want to harm a lot of people because of what certain people are doing.
Right. And that, honestly, you know, we don't think this comes up too much. But when it does, you know, we want to protect that relationship with those grantors. And
what's everybody think? What? I'm not a big fan of it, but I understand it.
No, and Madam Chair, my concern is that, you know, a grantor comes in one day and they're having a bad day or in a bad mood, and they go to a machine to get, you know, maybe the Mountain Dew selection is sold out or some selection that they like, and, you know, there could be just a you know, ticked off reaction because of that, and like, oh, this isn't here and I expected it to be here, and, you know, well, I'm going to cancel the Bureau Grantor agreement, and that puts the operator in quite a bit of trouble for, maybe they were coming a couple hours later or whatever,
So Frank got me thinking, Madam Chair. It's Jeff.
Yeah.
Would this be just as effective in a sense, since it eventually is going to have to go through some kind of disciplinary, and can we tie it to the suspension instead of the out and out revocation? I agree with Frank. I mean, what if there was a misunderstanding and unforeseen where we just needed to clear the air real quick? The grantor cancels the agreement. We remove the operator under a suspension until we figure out what's going on. Because ultimately our goal, I think, in the program is to preserve the operator's job if it's possible to preserve it. I'd rather see this as sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, this is Greg. So I think, and Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, they can't just, we have to be given the chance to cure is the legal term. So if somebody were to come in and they're having a bad day and it was completely unreasonable what they were saying, we would absolutely fight that and fight for the operator. They have to give us a time period to cure, to correct, and make things satisfactory. So, I understand you guys are trying to figure out and look at it, but, we have, it isn't a knee jerk on our end, and we have time to, figure it out. If it is simply, we need to have a meeting to clear the air or explain how these things, what happened and why something was the way it was, or what we're doing to fix it. And so, it isn't a matter of they call us one day and then we go, okay, you're out. That's not how this is. It's not how this would work.
Madam Chair, Greg, I'm sorry. I've seen it happen. That's the problem. I have seen a grantor call and say, you get this guy out of here or we're canceling this agreement today. And you're the guy they're going to send the letter to. And maybe you haven't seen that yet, but I'm telling you, I've seen it many, many times. And I'd much rather the operator been suspended, temporarily until we can sort it out, because there have been misunderstandings. Listen, I'm not questioning the Bureau's integrity at all. I'm questioning the fact that the grantor is going to call and put extreme pressure on the agency, to say, look, you're out of here. We've had it with this person, or we don't like this, whatever, And unfortunately, when you write these rules the way you are right now, you're actually putting yourself in a box. I mean, because if our own rules say that someone can't go back into a place for 3 years, I guess I feel like I'd rather you guys give yourselves a little bit of breathing room, and I hope this doesn't happen like it used to, but it was fairly frequent years ago, frankly. That's how buildings, frankly, got rid of operators that they didn't want, and we don't want that, but yet, so I get where you're coming from, Greg, but I really think you're kind of tying your own hands a little bit too. So, and maybe you're not, but it seems that way.
I agree with Jeff. It has been abused by grantors. We've had some very bad grantors over the years, and most notably even on federal property. And it can get dicey. And to tell an operator like Jeff said, well, not only are we going to suspend you now for this time period, which the rules, we've already got that in the rule, that if they're non-compliant with the BGA and we could lose it, that now you can't even go back there for 3 years. Well, the grantor could even change. I mean.
So, Madam Chair, I think can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, this is Rick. So there's a couple different layers here. Jeff, what you're talking about, I hear you. I am aware of at least one time that a grantor did do that, and I do understand, there may be a bad apple who's operating, but there are bad apple grantors and people you guys got to deal with too. But if we get, so there's like the scenarios playing out, if we get a call that, a vending machine isn't filled up, a day after there was a game in a in a athletic center. You know, that's, I don't read that as a grantor terminating the BGA. What they have to do under the BGA is they have to send a notice of termination formally through the mail to us, at which point we then have 30 days to cure. You know, so even if a grantor was to be super unreasonable, and in a scenario like that, say the operator didn't perform their duties under the BGA, we're terminating, which again would be unreasonable in my book. You know, we still have an opportunity to cure it, and to cure a complaint for a vending machine being empty or having not enough product in it is simply going in there and filling up the machine. You know, so there's different scenarios. So the scenario where this hopefully addresses is one where, you know, it's not unreasonable. You know, it's not that lone vending machine. You know, there's unexcused non-performance, and within that 30 days to cure, nothing was done to cure it. So that's, you know, it's much more serious scenario, I think, a much more formal scenario that I think I hope this would address.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I know of 2 grantors that here, and I know COVID is a whole new world. I know of 2 grantors who have threatened the Bureau with terminating a Bureau grantor agreement by saying that our operator was in breach of that agreement during the whole pandemic, where if the operator didn't go in there and start filling machines in basically empty buildings, that the operator could have been thrown out. Now, we know that's a little bit ludicrous, and the operator went in both circumstances. We were able to get it fixed. But
right.
But to turn around, say they couldn't, say the operator couldn't have done that, or they would have lost a lot of money to do that. Now they turn around and say, not only did you get your BOA suspended and possibly terminated, but you can't go back there for 3 years now? I don't understand the whole 3-year thing. I guess I'm with Jeff. We already have it in the rules that they can have their BOA suspended. We already have it in the rules that they can get it terminated then for that. What's the purpose of the 3-year thing after that?
So, Madam Chair, it's because if this, and I can think of an example, the person did actively and openly violate the BGA that was terminated, and they would possibly, if we reposted, would still be meet all the criteria to get the facility back. And that's not, we don't want that to happen. I mean, if the operator caused and the operator's actions were directly resulted in the BGA being canceled, and to turn around and tell the operator or the grantor, hey, we still have priority, and guess who's coming back? We've got to have some ability to provide good service, after we've had an issue where the grantor, and rightfully so, terminated the BGA for non-performance or non-compliance to the BGA.
Don't we have something in Rule 3 about eligibility for bidding? Isn't there? Let me find our draft of Rule 3. I thought there was something in there. Maybe not. It's not this specifically, but I thought there was something in Rule 3 when it talks about being eligible to bid. Something about being removed from a facility. Let me look. I could be wrong. I've seen so many drafts and so much garbage here. Where's the thing about?
Well,
because
Madam Chair,
yeah.
Can I ask Greg a question? So, Greg, what would you do in the instance where someone had waited out the 3 years? It's not inconceivable, and they want to bid back into the facility, and the grantor says, no, you can't. Or so they're going to have to go through the process of putting that person in, having the grantor cancel the Bureau grantor agreement. I'm trying to look out for you guys too, because I think this 3 years just, I don't know. It feels like it puts you guys in a position where you might not have a decision in that. You know, if a grantor says, I don't want this person back, you know, and that same grantor's there 3 years later, but the operator has a right under our rules to be there. I mean, you know, if it's a background check, they fail, that's one thing, but.
In
So,
our current
Rick,
draft of Rule 3, when it talks about the things that's eligible, one of the things that somebody can be determined ineligible for bidding is the applicant was involuntarily removed from the facility that is posted in the 12 months preceding the announcement posting. So right now, if they get booted out of there, they cannot bid for 12 months. If we, you know, assuming this draft goes through. So someone else, in theory, would bid on it and win, and it wouldn't come open again until that person left. So I think it's covered already, assuming we, you know, all agree to that part of it.
So yeah, if you were going to do the 3 years, that'd be the place to do it.
Yeah, if we do keep that section, then we need to change it to facility or site. And I would like to extend the 12 months to a longer period of time.
I think that's the best place to keep it and take this whole thing out of Rule 6.
So what that does, though, too, in E6, it does not address temporary operation. You know, this is just
well, don't
bid,
pick
right?
them for a temp. I mean,
yeah.
You can cancel a temp anytime you want.
Yeah, a temp can be canceled at any time, and there's nothing that says you'd even pick them for a temp.
Okay. You know, but yeah, I guess if there was a grievance process involving a temporary operator, you know, I would just be, or whoever was chosen to temp it. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, Rick, I think you're digging too deep now. There's nothing in the rule that says we have to pick certain operators to temp anything. We can cancel a temp agreement without cause at any time. So, yeah, someone can grieve that, but somebody can grieve anything.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we'll get ready.
So we'll say, how about this? Talking through this. So E6 in Rule 3, the applicant was involuntarily removed from the facility or site that is posted in the 3 years preceding the announcement posting.
That's better than all this.
I guess you can have the fight with the grantor if they don't want them back.
Yeah.
But you're going to give them a grievable event. That's all I'll say. By putting a time frame on it, you do give them something to grieve, unless that you go based on denial of access to the building. You know, I guess you could go through that.
Yeah.
It would kick it back through the rules. You know, I was trying to uncumber it for you guys, but that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Well, and Madam Chair, it could go the other way too. Maybe, you know, they're in a different facility. Maybe they've straightened everything out and they're doing everything they should do. That doesn't mean the grantor's going to want them back, like, you know, Greg and Jeff and Rick and them are saying. That's very possible. Or maybe the grantor's changed. So, you know, I don't know.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question of the Bureau? So now we use Grantor a lot. And most of our contracts, they are broken out these days by individual buildings. And the reason I ask is because, you know, we have a lot of state and a lot of federal, and the federal government's our grantor, the state DAS is our grantor, a lot of other places. So if a grantor orders you out of one specific building under their jurisdiction, does this pretty much mean you can't go into, or is it for just that specific building? And are the agreements separate for each individual building now?
Well, I would think in Rule 3, the way it was worded, it said the site or facility.
Okay.
So I would think it has to be that specific one.
Okay.
Because in Rule 3, it doesn't mention about the whole BGA thing and all that. It says involuntarily removed.
Okay, great.
All right, so we're getting rid of this whole D thing then here, and we'll put
I'm
that
going
other
to throw
thing
another
in.
wrench out there, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Do we also want to include voluntarily removed as well? You know, for the, you know, if there's an operator who decides rather than me getting removed under the BGA or something like that, against my will, I actually end up resigning. Because I think resigning would be considered a voluntary removal.
Yeah, but so it's just quitting is voluntary. Now you're assuming that they're resigning under bad terms. I don't want someone punished because they resign under good terms.
Yeah.
Oh, and Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I was going to ask this question. Let's say they are involuntarily removed and they go through the grievance process and they win. Then what? You know, then what happens? I'm sorry, we're trying to see around too many corners here and see into this.
Well, I would think if that would be part of the grievance settlement or the winning of the grievance, they would get that removed from their record, and
okay,
that part wouldn't count more. But I don't think we can put the voluntary thing in there that Rick brought up.
So, well, Madam Chair, this is Greg. So
yeah.
Can it be, it has to be the voluntary or the resignation or voluntary, however we want to define it, can it be attached to it is precipitated or due to the cancellation of the BGA or from the grantor? Because I see what Rick's talking about, and so the operator could look at it and go, well, they're going to remove me because I'm not curing this, but if I resign and they get a BGA back with whoever, I'll be the one, I can still apply for it, and and I can get back in there. Am I making sense? I see where Rick's trying to close a loophole.
It is a loophole, but we got to think about it, because like I said, we can't bring down the people who are resigning because they just want to take a break, or they're trying another job, or you know what I'm saying. They're resigning for a good reason.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it somehow we attach in the language that they're resigning after notice of breach of contract from the grantor or something. And maybe Rick, we can work on some language to give you guys, but I just want to make sure. I feel like that's a big loophole, and it took us about 30 seconds to find it. So if there's a way, maybe we can draft something that helps that.
Yeah, well, we'll look at if you come up with something.
Maybe it is as simple as saying resignation in lieu of termination or something. Like, you know what I mean? They see the writing on the wall and they send in a resignation letter. So anyway, we can
I was
work
going to
on
say
it a little
I
bit.
can see that being very challenged.
So
Yeah,
I like the in lieu of, you know, whatever. I mean, I like the resignation in lieu of, because that's essentially what we did a week ago.
yeah,
So,
it is. I know exactly where you're
so-
going, and I understand it. I just don't want to, you know, flush the baby with the bathwater with this. I just don't.
Okay.
All right. So we'll take that out and we'll work on that in Rule 3. An operator shall have only one BOA in place at any time in Ohio. On entering into a new BOA under paragraph A of this rule, any existing BOA shall terminate. After consulting with the selection panel, BE may enter into a TBOA to ensure continued operation of a facility or to establish reliable sales data for a vacant facility. Any TBOA that extends more than 6 months requires the active participation of the OVRC. BE, after consultation with the selection panel, BE will BE will select a temporary operator considering the transitioning operator, any displaced operators, and lowest income operators. Operators are not eligible for temporary assignments if the operator is not currently licensed by the BE program except with the discretion of the BSVI director in emergency situations, has past due program charges, attempts to obtain the facility or site through fraud, falsification, or criminal activity, has submitted 3 or more late reports and/or payments in the previous 12 months, has pending discipline, has been removed from a facility pursuant to paragraph C, a bunch of numbers of this rule, within the previous 12 months of the date on which the temporary assignment is offered. And C was the termination. 4, 5, and it mentions 4, 5, and 6 specifically. Is currently on an operator performance improvement plan. Before an operator can be assigned to temporarily operate a facility, the operator shall sign a TBOA with the BE program. A temporary bureau operator agreement shall specify all of the following: that the operator has received a copy of the relevant agreement between the BE program and the grantor for the proposed facility to which the operator will be temporarily assigned and agrees to operate the facility in accordance with all of the terms contained within the BGA, that the operator agrees to operate the facility in compliance with Chapter 3304 of the Revised Code and Chapter 3304-121 of the Administrative Code, that the TBOA may be terminated immediately without cause upon written notice by either party, and that the temporary operator shall be compensated either by a fee or net proceeds as follows. If compensated by net proceeds, the temporary operator is required to pay a service charge to the BE program. If compensated by an agreed upon fee, the operator shall pay all facility profits to BE. The temporary operator shall record any temporary operator fee on the MOR for the same reporting period. All unpaid profits shall be reported and paid on the final MOR. Whenever an operator's TBOA is terminated or their BOA is suspended or terminated, notice must be sent both to the operator and their OVRC representative in their preferred formats. And so ends Rule 6. Okay. Where did I put it? So what I think we've gone through most of, we've done 7, We've done 8, 9, 10, 11. I think 12, 13, and 14. And
Madam
yes.
Chair, I'm not sure we did 9 for the third time.
Okay. Well, we can run through it.
So I think it's 9, 12, 13, and 14.
Okay.
And yeah.
I know we were jumping around a little bit there. 9. Okay, here's 9. Yeah, now that you've mentioned that, I think you are right. All right, Rule 9 is program penalties. When a service charge or other payment owed to the BE program is unpaid, incomplete, or late, fees shall be applied as follows. If this is the first occurrence for the operator in the current federal fiscal year, the operator shall receive a written warning. If this excuse me, if this is the second occurrence for the operator in the current federal fiscal year, a fee of $100 shall be applied to the current balance owed and be added to the billing invoice for the next service charge. If this is the third occurrence or more for the operator in the current federal fiscal year, a fee of $200 shall be applied to the current balance owed and be added to the billing invoice for the next service charge, and the operator shall be placed on a performance improvement plan. Each occurrence in a federal fiscal year shall result in a progression of the fees. The progression of penalties and fees shall be on a per facility basis. In addition to the fees and actions cited in this rule, the operator shall be charged a $50 program service fee for payments returned for insufficient funds. Each operator will have the opportunity to utilize an emergency excuse not to exceed 1 use per federal fiscal year. The request for an emergency excuse must be made before the payment is due. In the instance of an excused late payment, the payment must be submitted within 15 calendar days of the original due date. Any unpaid program charges more than 60 days past due shall be assessed a 25% late fee, which shall be added to the total of unpaid program charges and forwarded to the State of Ohio Attorney General's Office for collection in accordance with section blah, 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 of the revised code. Upon certification to the Attorney General's Office for past due program charges, BE may revoke an operator's license in accordance with Rule 13 of the Administrative Code unless all certified amounts are paid in full within 120 days of certification. And that's Rule 9. Okay. Excuse me. So we did 10. Did everybody see, before we go to Rule 12, they did change Rule 10 and took where we had that discussion last time about the whole program manager, if the director disagrees with the selection panel thing. They did change that. So we'll look at that in here. We do one pass final through. All right, Rule 12. Ohio Vendors Representative Committee. The Ohio Vendors Representative Committee, OVRC, is fully representative of all blind licensees issued licenses by the Bureau of Services for the Visually Impaired pursuant to Chapter 3304 of the Revised Code. The OVRC is comprised of 8 representative districts in Ohio. The OVRC shall vote on the district boundaries at the meeting preceding October 1st. Districts shall be centered around Columbus, Zanesville, Akron, Canton, Cleveland, Toledo, Cincinnati, and Dayton. Hold on. Did we want to? I know we moved it to 8 because we talked about splitting Columbus, but we don't really say that. Here.
But doesn't it say you'll vote on the districts?
Yeah, but it says that they're to be centered. I guess this is okay. Boundaries meeting preceding October 1st. Okay. The OVRC shall be composed of 8 licensed operators who are elected by the operators assigned to the same electoral district. An operator's electoral district shall be determined by their principal place of business. Each representative shall represent all operators assigned to the electoral district. An alternate representative shall also be elected for each electoral district. A representative and an alternate representative from each district shall be elected for a 2-year term commencing on July 1st of the year of their election. If a representative is absent from a meeting, the alternate representative shall participate in that meeting with the full rights of the representative. If a representative is unable to complete a term, is recalled, ceases to be an operator, or moves from the electoral district, the alternate representative shall complete the term and a new alternate representative shall be elected through a special election to complete the original alternate representative's term. If an alternate representative is unable to complete the term, ceases to be an operator, is recalled, or moves from that electoral district, or assumes the representative's position, a new alternate representative shall be elected to complete the original alternate representative's term. No special election for an alternate representative shall occur if there are 90 days or less remaining in the term at the time of any vacancy. The committee representatives and alternate representatives shall be elected as follows. BE shall schedule and conduct a nominating meeting on or before April 1st of each year in which the representative is to be elected. Elections shall be held for OVRC representatives and alternate representatives in the Akron, Canton, Cleveland, and Cincinnati districts in even-numbered years, and in the Columbus, Zanesville, Toledo, and Dayton districts in odd-numbered years. If we are splitting a Columbus into 2, do we want to keep it that way? Because according to this, we would have 3, 1 in the even-numbered years and 5 in the odd-numbered years. Do we want to keep it that way, or am I making it a bigger trouble than it's worth? If we wanted to move one of the other ones to the...
Hey, Madam Chair, may I point something out?
Yes,
just to everybody, just for people to think about. Before I do that, I want to say this, and I know why Jeff proposed this, because he had mentioned before how many facilities are in the Columbus area, and I haven't looked at that number for a few months, but when I looked at it compared to like Cincinnati and Dayton, they are up there. I don't know if it was 24 or 20, I don't remember exactly, but my concern is, what I wanted to point out to everybody is, by having 8 representatives, is there is the possibility that some motions going forward, and my concern is it could be, very important motions that could come out to 4-4 ties, which means they would fail. Not saying that would happen all the time, but it could happen often enough to where, it may or may not be a problem. I don't know, but I could see that happening often enough to where it might be an issue. And I watching some of the litigation over, like I'll use the example of our presidential election this year. There was a Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling that got appealed to the Supreme Court, and at that time there were only 8 justices, and it came down to a 4-4 tie from the Supreme Court, which meant the Pennsylvania ruling stood. Or in our case, I believe if it's tied, the motion fails or doesn't pass, however you want to use it. So I don't know. I guess my only thought is, do we want to leave it this way? However, I want to make something very clear. Jeff's issue and the problem he pointed out in Columbus is very real, and we need to find some way to address that. And that was one way of doing it. If we don't do it the way he's proposing, or do we talk about some serious redistricting or something like that? Because I'll be honest, I think I have a total of 13 facilities in Cincinnati, and if Jeff has 20 something in Columbus, yeah, there's something proportionately wrong with that, and we need to fix that. And I don't know if I'm only asking. I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. I'm only asking, would it be better to move? I'll give an example. Like those 2 facilities on 71 in Jeffersonville, for example, they could be put in the Dayton district. They could be put in the Cincinnati district. I was just trying to come up with a way to try and work this out to where we didn't run into the problem with the motions that I was thinking about. Anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
I think it was Scott first and then Jeff. Was that you,
Yeah,
Scott?
Can go first.
Okay.
And to Frank's point about motions being voted upon, the chair doesn't vote as the local rep, and if there were a tie, then the chair could extend his or her powers and break a tie, if I'm not mistaken. The other thing that I was going to mention was, Frank, you were talking about Jeff proposing this. Jeff really wasn't the one that proposed it. I didn't want him being piled on good or bad in this particular case, mainly bad. I'm the one that came up with the proposal to split Columbus. Well, no, I just wanted to make sure that the ownership wasn't thrust on Jeff, if he wasn't the one that pushed for it in the very beginning. I just wanted to have that clarification so that it doesn't negatively reflect on him, is what I meant.
Yeah, and what would happen is with the tie, and then Jeff, I would point out, is chances, if all folks were there, it would go 4-3. The chair would only vote then if the chair so desired to not allow the vote to go through 4-3 and wanted to force a tie, and essentially not letting something go forward.
Well, I'm sure the only thing I will say is I know I did it, and I believe Derek did it too when he was chair, when I was chair. Both of us pretty much voted on a consistent basis as the representative. Yes, we did wait until to see if we had to break a tie, but we usually tried to vote either, just so that the people we represented knew where we stand or where we stood. That's it. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff. I apologize.
No. So, Madam Chair, the only 2 things I wanted to point out was, one, I agree with Scott. I thought the division was going to be messy, and he's right. I didn't really want to mess with it myself. But the bigger issue, more than the workload, is the operators of Columbus in the surrounding area are very wildly underrepresented. That's what bothers me. As Frank put it, he has half the operators we do. And at the time we talked about this, we were going to experience some more growth. We were going to have maybe 2 more facilities at Ohio State. We were going to be pushing 30 facilities in Columbus. And frankly, there's some facilities in Columbus that are quote unquote Zanesville facilities that geographically doesn't really make any sense to us. But anyway, the other thing is, at any given meeting, we could have an even number of voting members there. Yeah, I mean, Lord, there was a time when Cleveland never came. Never. And that went on for a couple of years at least. And we still managed to handle it. Derek was chair during a good part of that time. Annette was chair. You know, we always seem to work it out. I know where Frank's coming from. I don't disagree with him, but we face that dilemma. It's not in our recent memory because, first of all, we have really good reps right now that are good about attending meetings, and during the pandemic, it's easy. So there aren't weather concerns or other things like that. So I would just say, Frank, that we could face that at any time, regardless of, as long as we have a quorum, you know, regardless of the number of reps that we do have. So.
Well, today, at least as of when we did roll call, Akron-Canton isn't represented. I don't know if Larry ever came on, but or Dean, but
Do we have anybody from Dayton?
Huh?
Is Dayton
No, Jim's here. Jim's here from Dayton.
Oh, Jim's here. That's right. I heard him earlier. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, Jim's here, but so Jeff's right. At any given time, there's times when certain areas are not represented, and he's right. We went probably a good decade where we didn't even have representation at all in Cleveland. So, let alone them showing up. So we're going to stick with the 8. We go back to the original question. Do we want to have 5 one year and 3 the other in elections? It makes it uneven, but it makes it the easiest because then we have to talk about how we hold elections and stuff. John, did you have?
I think you should move one of them to make it easier for the Bureau, for one thing, because then they just do 4 at a time.
I tend to agree. Then we got to clean it up what we do with the one we move. When these are codified, when would that one end? And we'd have to talk about that. So who wants to get moved?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Would we move both Columbus to the same year or split that up? I'm just curious about that. I don't know what makes the most sense.
I'm almost thinking since Columbus would be the new one, that's the cleanest one to move, because we'd be starting a brand new term. You know, because if not, say I'll use myself for example. Say we move Toledo into the other year. Well, when does the Toledo term end then? Is it after, you know, because these will be codified in the middle of a term. So we would have to discuss what to do then with that term. I guess it's in the rules. I guess if we moved it to the even number year, that's when it would end, even if it had only been 1 year since, that probably cleans it up. It
Madam
probably
Chair.
takes care of itself. Yes, Scott.
So if you're talking about, I mean, I guess it depends on how we split Columbus, and that has yet to be determined. But my original thought process in doing this and proposing this was to split Columbus and then bring DSCC from Zanesville into the Columbus district. And I would be stepping down as the Zanesville rep at that time and then running as a possible district of Columbus. So, you know, and it doesn't matter. I mean, my position is insignificant in this overall decision. But I had hoped that we could dovetail the possibility of moving DSCC facilities to one of the Columbus districts. Therefore, I would have to be stepping down, and then I could run for a position in whichever district it is in Columbus. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Columbus, so we have 2 Columbus, Zanesville. All right. If we keep the 2 Columbus together, we do them the same year, then we got to move either Zanesville, Toledo, or Dayton to the with the other group. It don't matter, I guess, who gets moved. I'm guessing we should, what Scott's point was, not because he's the rep, but because we will probably move some of those facilities into Columbus, we should probably at least keep Zanesville with the Columbus ones. Might be the easiest for the long-term thoughts, less confusing. So that would take us to between Toledo and Dayton to move. And I don't care. I don't know if there's any preference. So,
Madam Chair, you should move Dayton probably.
move Dayton.
For unstated obvious
I
reasons.
said it. Well,
I say move Toledo because
well, they
Madam
may
Chair, you're
end
going
up.
to get reelected regardless.
That's true too.
All right. So whenever these are codified, so that means election shall. So we'll say we move Toledo. We're going to hold an election this March because this is right now under the old rules. So they won't be done by then. So yeah, we would do that then. And if they're done in the following year, we would do Toledo again 1 year later, because then it would be one of the even years. I'm fine with that. I don't think that, like I said, it's going to happen to one district. So, Bureau, you understand all that we've just said? They're probably all muted. If y'all are talking,
No,
you're
this
muted.
is Rick, Madam Chair. Sorry. Can you please just give me a rundown of what section, subsection we're looking at?
We're going to move Toledo so that we have 4 elections each year. We're going to put Toledo in with the Cincinnati, Canton, and Cleveland. So those would be on the even numbered years.
Okay. So
And then we should probably, pardon me?
Toledo's going with Cincinnati, and what were the other two?
Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Akron.
Okay.
So that'll happen in even numbered years.
Okay.
And then Columbus, Zanesville, and Dayton. Somewhere we should specify that there are 2 Columbus.
Okay. So
because if not, where people are going to be confused why we have 8 operators in 7 districts.
I think you do Columbus 1 and Columbus 2.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Rick.
Or so we could say both Columbus locations, Zanesville, and
Dayton districts in odd numbered years.
Okay, thank you.
All right. An operator must be present at this meeting or participate through a telecommunication option to be nominated as a representative or alternate representative, unless prior approval is granted by BE. Nobody's ever nominated as an alternate representative, so just a yes.
I'd like to change that.
Okay.
Or I'd at least like to explore the possibility of changing that. I'd like to do an election for a representative and alternate representative. And to use myself as an example, for the next term, I'm not interested in being a representative. I'd like someone else to be the representative, and I wouldn't mind serving as the alternate. However, most operators in the area know my name and all that. If we just do the traditional way, it's likely, I mean, I can't say for sure, but it's likely that I would receive the most votes and by default be the representative, which I'm not interested in serving in that capacity. So is there, anybody have any ideas on how we can make a change so a person can run for the position they're interested in filling?
That comes up a lot.
Yeah, Madam Chair, didn't we have Steve Vinke and Derek do that a lot?
Steve and Derek, they used to have the battles over this. This was a
And then they would switch it, you know.
they'd switch and they'd do all, one would step down and the other would step in and they'd do another election, and it was this has happened a lot over the years, where somebody actually wants to be the alternate. So then we would be holding two different elections.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I like that idea because, frankly, why do you want someone as representative who doesn't want to be the representative but yet wants to get some exposure? You know, some of our new operators kind of shy away from it sometimes because they're afraid they'll get elected as the rep.
So why don't we do it? And I know the bureau's over there. I hear Christy cringing. I do.
No. No. I'm all for not doing multiple elections. I remember one summer doing, I don't know how many in Cleveland. Actually, it was Vicky. My only question, and I understand where you guys are getting at, but what if someone signs up? We've got 3 people that just want to be the alternate, and no one wants to be the rep.
I think in
Well,
that, Madam Chair, if I may, I think
Yes.
in that situation, just by default, whenever there's no representative present, the alternate becomes the representative. So in that case, I think you would just, unfortunately, even though that's not what you ran for, since there is no actual representative, the alternate becomes the rep. Because if you attend a meeting and the representative isn't there, the alternate by default becomes the representative for voting purposes and everything else. So I don't see that it's any different circumstance if there's no elected representative for the area.
Well, Madam Chair, I would
That's
take
true.
the
So-
other approach that if you're not interested in being the rep, you probably shouldn't run for alternate because at any given time you could be thrust into that position whether you like it or not.
Yeah, but it
Madam
happens.
Chair, that
Go ahead,
one
Tom.
right there, I'm not interested in committing the amount of time and resources to being the rep. However, if I'm needed, I would serve in an alternate capacity. So under what Jeff just said, I shouldn't run and we should go unrepresented.
So why don't we do this? We keep it like it is now for rep. We do that because that election should be held first then. And then, you know, maybe in June or something, or May or something, we hold the ones for alternate.
Yeah, I
Madam
don't
Chair.
like this at all.
Madam Chair.
And I only say that, yes.
What if we just proceed forward with the current election process unless a nominee specifically requests to only run for the alternate position? Then at that point, then we could address separating the election. But if there is not an objection, then we just proceed forward with the way things are going right now.
Okay. Yeah, because because some people, you know, most people, if they want to run for rep, but if they lost, they still want to, you know, they might still want to be the alternate.
Madam Chair?
And Madam Chair, one of the things we do at times elect alternates. When Brian passed away, we did a special election for that alternate. So we do.
Right.
We have done an election for an alternate.
Yeah, so that's true for this rule here, for the language here.
Madam Chair?
Yes. No.
The problem with what Scott was just talking about is that if someone wants to be the alternate, but two other people run, they're not going to be given the chance to be the alternate anyways.
Can you clarify that? I didn't understand that one.
Yeah, so let's say you want to be an alternate, but and there's going to be a special election later, and two other people are running against you. Well, the way the rules are written, you're not even going to get the chance to be voted as an alternate, because whoever gets the least amount of votes between the other two people is going to be the alternate automatically.
What I was saying is, if someone declares that they only want to be nominated for the alternate position, then you proceed forward with two separate elections. Otherwise, there's no need to complicate things.
That's assuming that only one other person runs it.
Who
Madam
is?
Chair?
Oh,
This is John.
Yeah.
How about whoever wants to run for a representative, declare they want to run for a representative and ask somebody to run with them as the alternate, i.e. a party. And then if there's no other contestant running, then the person gets the position as representative, and the other person gets the position as alternate.
I think that works out great when there's only two people. Where it gets iffy is if there's more than two running.
That's
where the concern is.
Sorry, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
That's where your running mate will help you get the votes. If there's,
Or Madam Chair, that's where a second election could be performed just for the position of alternate.
I heard that, Christy.
Y'all have me all confused now.
There really is.
Yeah, y'all have me all. I'm with Christy. I don't know.
This conversation is exactly why it stayed the same for 50 years. That's why.
Madam Chair.
That's exactly it. And yes.
This is Sally. Couldn't the person who just wants to be alternate decline the representative position, which would then put them second in line so they could take the alternate position?
That sounds like
no, I think if you
we could write it that way.
You bail out.
Yeah, usually if
Madam
you
Chair.
fail, if there were three people, yeah.
Yeah, but you can you can do that, but if you want to make it work.
Madam Chair.
I don't know. Yeah, somebody was talking, but I didn't know. We didn't hear what they said.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, John. Oh.
Was Isaac first?
Isaac, was that you trying to speak before?
Yeah, I guess I guess it's a con to everything. You just gotta pick one that that you want to work with. I think the two parties is a good idea, and it's just one election. But if a person don't have a running mate, I don't know about that, but that's a good one. Or the decline is a good one too. You just got to put it in the rules that a person can decline and go to alternate. I don't know. It's just either way it go. It's a con. It can be a con to it if you keep looking at it that way. But you got to look at it and resolve. You got to try to find a resolve for it and just go from there.
Why can't we just put a simple thing when we get to the part where it says the person receiving the top number of votes is the representative and the one receiving the second number of votes is the alternate? Why can't we put a sentence in there saying the person receiving the top number of votes gets to choose if they want to serve as rep or alternate?
I like it. That solves my problem.
There's one problem with that as well. If the second person, the person who gets the least amount of votes does not want to be the rep and they only want to be the alternate, then that causes problems
Then they
for them
can
and they're
step
forced to do a
down.
job they don't want.
Yeah, well, no, they're not forced. They can step down.
And then the original person becomes a rep anyways.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Madam Chair, I move that we move past this and just deal with what we got. That's, we need to, we're wasting way too much time on this. We're not going to change it, so.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Can I say what I was going to say originally?
Yes, go ahead, and then Frank, and then.
Okay.
Go ahead,
all I was
John.
going to say is that if a person only wants to be an alternate, all they have to do is listen to the meeting, the nomination meeting, and only get themselves nominated at the end if there's only one other person. It's that simple. That's why when I ran against Doug, I didn't put my name in there because I did not want to be the rep. I only wanted to be the alternate, and I waited for a second election on purpose. And it worked out fine.
Frank, did you have something?
No, it was somebody else. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay.
It was me, but I declined.
Oh, okay. Tom, were you? I think it's just better to do like we've been doing. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to take umbrage with what Jeff said. There's no point in talking about this because we're not doing it anyway. Let's move on. The point of having the discussion is to find out unless Jeff now determines what we're doing as a committee. I was trying to open up the discussion. One of the things that happened in the past, and I believe it was John and Scott who just mentioned it, was the last election in Cleveland, not this one, but the term before, I wasn't interested in being the rep, so I didn't run. And then someone else was elected as rep. I felt they weren't representing the area, so then I had to ask for a special election so I could be the alternate to represent the area. I didn't run for the rep position because I didn't want to be the rep. But now that caused the Bureau to have to do a special election for the alternate position. And I was trying to simplify things and move on and have a discussion here. But if the committee feels we leave it as it is, then we'll just keep doing special elections.
Madam Chair, I apologize to Tom. I was being snarky, Tom. I've sat through this discussion, a dozen times over 30 years. And my point only was, and I shouldn't have been such a smart aleck about it, is that you're going to have to hold two separate elections regardless. I mean, we have all been engineering these elections the way we want them to come out as far as the people involved with them. And I'm not saying we did anything wrong, but we tried to adjust the voting so that the person that wanted to be alternate got 1 or 2 votes, and the person that wanted to be rep got the lion's share of them. That's all. That isn't always possible, Tom. I do get that. And in the case of Cleveland, sometimes it's hard to get somebody to want to be the rep. And that's my whole point, is that if you elect someone rep who really doesn't want to be the rep, then you're stuck with this person who's not going to come and participate anyway, and the alternate gets stuck regardless. And my whole argument has always been, if you don't want to be rep, don't want to be alternate, because at any point in time, you could be thrust into that position, either on a temporary or permanent basis. That's all. And I apologize, Tom. I wasn't trying to cut short the conversation, but again, if someone came to the committee with a rule in hand and said, this is my proposal, this is how we can do it, that would be great. I'm just concerned that we're not going to work all those gory details out on the phone today. Maybe we can. I don't know.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I appreciate it, Jeff. I wanted to have the discussion so that we could work through this. And I understand the concern or the statement when people say, if you don't want to be the rep, don't run for alternate, because you might end up being the rep. But to use myself as an example yet again, the last time the term was up for election, or the position was up, I was very engaged with some temp opportunities. I didn't have enough time. I felt I wouldn't be representing my operators appropriately, so I said I'm going to step down. When I realized that no one was representing my operators, I had to ask for a special election. So there are times that I'm willing to, or a representative may be willing to fulfill the representative role, but they don't feel they can commit the amount of time to be the actual rep, but they are available to step in as a temp. And like Jeff said, there's no point in belaboring it and bringing the whole meeting to a halt. But it is something we should consider, maybe give it some thought and figure out how we can implement it going forward.
Well, yeah, that's what I was
Madam
going to say.
Chair.
We can maybe put this in the same list as that whole inventory stuff. It's something we can maybe not spend much more time on now, but work on for the future. Yes, Scott.
All right, I've got one more proposal. Let's see what everybody thinks, and let's determine the pitfalls in this one. And I'm sure there are some that I'm not thinking of at all. So if we go with the current structure the way it is, unless someone specifically wants to run for the alternate position, then in that particular case, and only in that particular case, do we do a vote when the ballot goes out? Then there is an option for the people who want to run for rep. There's a vote for that. And only in the case when somebody wants to be only the alternate, then there's a separate column for those individuals that want to run for only the alternate position.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
As the person who originally disrupted the meeting with this suggestion, I'm going to suggest that we table it for future discussion, and I'll
Tom,
withdraw my
you
comment
wanted,
now.
can we discuss this for just a second? Please tell me if there's
I don't think it's simple enough.
disadvantages.
I don't think. I think there are disadvantages, and I think going into all of the ins and outs of that right now is just going to belabor this point for people who are interested in moving on. So that's why I was trying to remove my objection for the moment and plan to revisit.
Yeah, I think it's something we can consider. And like I said, I think it's one of those things, you know, I kind of compare it to the inventory thing. It could get complicated and tricky, and it's something we can maybe work on in the future and work on your idea, Scott, then and talk about it. But to try and come up with all the pitfalls and worry about putting in the rule now, I don't know if we can. So if we're going to do a simple solution. So, okay, so we leave it as is for now. If only one candidate is nominated in a district, that operator shall be declared the winner by acclamation. If more than one candidate is nominated in a district, BE shall prepare a ballot listing all the candidates, and BE shall distribute a copy to each operator in the area within 15 calendar days of the nominating meeting. The ballot shall be counted only if it is marked for one candidate and received on or before the 15th calendar day from the date the ballot was distributed by BE. All eligible ballots shall be counted with an OVRC representative present after this deadline has passed. The candidate receiving the most votes shall be the representative, and the candidate receiving the next greatest number of votes shall be the alternate representative. In case of a tie, the representative shall be the operator with the most seniority, and the alternate representative shall be the operator who has the next greatest amount of seniority. Within 15 calendar days of counting the ballots, BE shall inform each licensee within the area the results of the election.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have just one question about based on seniority. Excuse me.
Okay.
Is that seniority based on time since licensee or time in facility, which is what we're talking about with other seniority lists?
It would be whatever we decide on what the definition for seniority is when we do the definitions.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we get to that, we'll have that discussion. When we do the, we'll land somewhere with what seniority is. Then, but wherever it says seniority in the rules, that's what the definition will be, or that's whatever the definition says. Yep. Within 15 calendar days of counting I read that part already. The operators of an established electoral district may petition OVRC to recall the current elected representative or alternate representative for misconduct or neglect of duty. The petition must be approved by 51% of all eligible operators of the given electoral district and shall clearly specify the charges brought against the elected representative or alternate representative. OVRC shall determine if just cause does exist for a recall ballot and direct BE to send a recall ballot to the eligible operators if it determines just cause does exist. 2/3 of the eligible voting operators of the given electoral district are required to return a ballot with an affirmative vote to recall a representative or alternate representative. The results of the ballot shall be effective immediately. Special elections to fill an unexpired term of a representative or an alternate shall be conducted in the following manner. BE shall conduct a nominating meeting as soon as is reasonably possible. An operator must be present at this meeting or participate through a telecommunication option to be nominated as a representative or alternate representative unless prior approval is granted by BE. Only operators operating a facility through a signed BOA may nominate and vote, and may only nominate and vote in the election for the representative for their own electoral district. If only one candidate is nominated in a district, that operator shall be declared the winner by acclamation. If more than one candidate is nominated in a district, BE shall prepare a ballot listing all the candidates and shall distribute a copy to each operator in the area within 15 business days of the date of the nominating meeting. The ballot shall be counted only if it is marked for one candidate and received on or before the 15th business day from the date the ballot was distributed by BE. All eligible ballots shall be counted with an OVRC representative present after this deadline has passed. The candidate receiving the most votes shall complete the original term. In case of a tie, the declared winner shall be the candidate with the most seniority. Within 15 calendar days of counting the ballots, BE shall inform each licensee within the area the results of the election. Elections may be conducted electronically if agreed upon by OVRC and BE. The OVRC shall establish bylaws outlining how meetings shall be conducted and how officers will be elected, and will file the bylaws with BE within 1 week of adoption. OVRC chairperson or designee shall prepare an agenda of topics to be discussed by the OVRC at each meeting and communicate to BE the written recommendations of the OVRC within 15 business days following such meetings. These recommendations shall be considered by BE before any decisions are made, except in a situation requiring the immediate action of the director. The full OVRC committee shall receive and transmit to the state licensing agency grievances at the request of blind vendors and serve as advocates for such vendors in connection with such grievances. Participate with BE in developing training programs and sponsor with the assistance of BE meetings for licensees. At the meeting immediately preceding October 1st of each year, BE will actively participate with OVRC, and contingent on the availability of BE funds shall determine for the next federal fiscal year the amounts of co-payment for service call, payments assuring a fair minimum of return pursuant to 34 CFR 395, benefit payments, and rates of reimbursement for actual and necessary expenses for OVRC representatives and alternates to attend regular meetings of the OVRC and any other official duties performed on behalf of the OVRC. Reimbursement and expenses incurred for attending special meetings is prohibited. The BSVI director shall meet with the committee at least twice each federal fiscal year. Special meetings of the committee shall be convened within 10 business days of the written request of the majority of its members or upon the written request of the BSVI director. Committee members shall bear the cost of their expenses related to special meetings. BE shall bear the cost of actual and necessary expenses of committee meetings for committee members at attendance at regular meetings. The OVRC shall actively participate with BSVI in major administrative decisions and policy and program development with respect to BE. Such participation includes, but is not limited to, decisions concerning contracts with BE vendors and suppliers, purchases involving new or existing facilities that are $50,000 or more, the creation of or changes to forms operators are required to complete and or sign, changes to reporting requirements of operators, settlement agreements being considered by BE, extension of a TBOA beyond 6 months, reconfiguration of a vacant facility prior to posting, known proposals that could cause a major reduction in funding for the BE program, known proposals to amend statutes, administrative rules, or written policies or procedures affecting licensees, and disputes with grantors where the grantor has indicated the loss of a site or a facility, as otherwise required in Chapter 3304-121 of the Ohio Administrative Code. BE shall provide the OVRC members information including, but not limited to, documents or other material necessary to understand the issues that require active participation 4 business days before the next OVRC meeting, or if the issue arises less than 4 days before the next OVRC meeting, with as much advance notice as reasonably possible. OVRC shall provide the BSVI director information including, but not limited to, documents or other material necessary to understand the issues 4 business days before the next OVRC meeting, or if the issue arises less than 4 days before the next OVRC meeting, with as much advance notice as reasonably possible. BE shall not take any action on a matter requiring active participation of OVRC without first securing the active participation of OVRC, except BE may take action prior to securing active participation of the OVRC if an emergency occurs in the discretion of the BSVI director. In cases of emergency, the BSVI director shall make every effort to consult with the OVRC chair or vice chair prior to taking action, and shall, when such an emergency has abated, provide to the OVRC chair a written description of the emergency and the action taken. And BE may take action on issues requiring active participation if the OVRC does not respond within a reasonable time. The OVRC shall not actively participate in decision-making processes regarding OOD personnel, personnel policies, or personnel administration. I don't like that sentence. I'm going to stop there for a second and think about this. OD personnel. I don't have no problem with policies or administration. I do have some concern, though, about personnel, like the number of personnel, when it's BE budget that's being used to pay for them. Because I think OVRC has a very big thing to say if, you know, money's tight.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Is the Bureau open to us putting non-budgetary matters involving personnel? And I actually would like to see us involved, if need be, with facility assignment as well, but I don't think we'll get that. But but definitely the budget is huge. I think that has to be the human resources component to date is our most expensive line item on our budget right now. And if the committee doesn't clearly have active participation with the Bureau on that item, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, I think it is for the OVRC not to have any active participation in the amount of program dollars that's being spent, when our program dollars are definitely generated via service charge and match. I think that's...
Madam Chair, I guess where I get somewhat nervous when you're talking about the program dollars, and maybe it's clarifying the language a little bit, because you could then argue you get to decide salary, and that's contract issues. And are you? I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Are you saying you guys want active participation in any expansion or the number of staff?
That would definitely be a good start. Yeah, we don't care. I won't say we don't care. We understand how much is being paid. There's union things with that. We don't have the ability or honestly the need to get involved with that. And benefits payments and all that stuff's not in our purview at all. But you're right, when it comes to the number of staff, and even like it says, personnel policies and administration, we don't have anything to do with any of that. Our big concern is the number of staff. And yes, Tom.
I see this I'll give a little bit of an example. I see this kind of similar to the way we handle equipment. The committee has input on whether or not we buy equipment and how much equipment we buy, but we don't usually ask for input on how much we pay for that equipment. And I don't see the staff as any different.
So it's active participation on any hiring or expanding the. I just, again, it. This is where I got to ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to be, I want to make sure we don't hamstring ourselves, because what you're saying though is it can be interpreted as we can't even, you would approve, or we have to actively participate to hire a specific person or to backfill a position versus backfilling. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page, or I'm understanding what exactly, making it very clear what exactly you're requesting the active participation be on.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Tom. And then I know Jeff was trying to say something too. So go ahead, Tom.
I'll step aside and let Jeff go ahead, and then I'll clean the floor after Jeff.
Jeff?
No, I'm sorry, Tom. I apologize. I don't know why I thought she said Jim. Greg, it's exactly that. It's staffing levels, and I can't begin to emphasize the fact that this is such a gigantic portion, and it needs to be. It is what it is. Of the program's overall budget, that for us to actively participate in the administration of this program, we have got to have a seat at the table when it comes to the allocation of program resources. I'm like Annette. What you pay people and the benefits you provide is all a matter of internal state government. I understand that. Now I will tell you that if we shift the burden of the staff portion that gets matched with federal from BE funds to GRF funds,
you can hire 1,000 people if you want. But unfortunately, every person that we create, a position for in BE takes resources away from expansion and other things. And sometimes that's a good return. Don't get me wrong. I think Amy's position is going to be a great return. But on the other hand, there are a lot of operators in the program that want to understand why the amount of money that's in the budget for human resources is at the level that it is. And obviously, pre-pandemic, yeah, you can make that argument. But we'd like to have a seat at the table when it comes to understanding and developing a plan for what our staffing levels ideally should be. And we used to have 30 staff members. We don't have that anymore, and there's a reason. The committee and the Bureau sat down together, and we worked out what everyone was comfortable with and what we felt the program could afford. And we need to be doing that again, and that's what we're trying to protect.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Tom. I'm sorry.
I kind of want to echo what Jeff said. I just want to restate it a little bit differently. In my view of this, I guess, issue with the committee is right now it feels like the Bureau can create as many positions as they would like. We can, our facility numbers decrease, our number of operators decrease, and we have no say on how our service charge dollars are being spent or staffing levels. And we're asking for a seat at the table when a position is created. We'd like some input on that. When a consultant position is vacated, we'd like to evaluate, is that still a necessary position? Do we need to fill that? And I don't think that's an unreasonable request. I think that if you were doing an operator appraisal on any one of us, you would look at our staffing and you would ask, is the amount of staff you have appropriate to the amount of work you're doing? And we're just asking that the Bureau do the same and to allow us to be part of that process.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Am I muted? Oh, sorry.
No, we hear you.
Okay. You would, I say this every time, you'd think after 9 months you'd have the mute and keys down. So, yeah, and I'll double check with legal, but I don't have a problem actively participating if we're looking to expand or add additional staff, and even for a backfill, as long as it's really the high level discussion of whether or not to backfill or to expand. I just want to be clear that the hiring process is ours, and who we hire and the interview and that piece. I just want to make sure we're on the same page there, which it sounds like we are.
We absolutely are.
Chair?
Yes. We just to point out, we have sat at the table for some interviews, but usually it was toward the end when somebody was pretty much already hired. We would have a talk and have them meet with the OVRC. That's happened on several times, but that's not what we're asking for here. We honestly are completely focused on the budgetary part to the program. So yes, expansion, backfilling, determining if a position is still necessary. So I'm almost wondering if back when it lists all the things that OVRC actively participates in, if we should have a line there about expansion of BE staff, or staffing level,
identifying appropriate staff levels.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Yes. Frank.
Well, bear with me 1 second here. Sorry. Hang on. You know how it goes when you're trying to do something. I'm going to say that the amount of total dollars spent out of our budget, and then use a percentage of our total revenue. For example, on something like, we'll say payroll expenditures or whatever we happen to be looking at. I think if we could come up with the percentages and what the total dollars are, and then we would have an idea and then set a percentage and try and work within that percentage. I don't know if that's a better
I don't
way
think we
than-
can go there, Frank. Yeah,
Okay.
because revenue for whatever reason could go up and down, and I think that could get kind of sticky. I think where Tom was going with putting in the list of things that need to be actively participated on. That it was here. Where it talks about known proposals to rules, and Rick, you see where I'm talking about, don't you? J.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do see where
Make
you're
a
talking
J
about. It's just the difficulty of
Yes.
drafting this one. So,
Yeah.
And Madam Chair, in the interest of stating it as plainly as possible, I have no interest in dictating who's hired, what position they're hired for, what they're paid, or what their benefits packages are. The only thing I desire to have input on, I'm speaking as an individual here, is whether or not we still need the number of staff we currently have. That's it. And if obviously if we're going to expand, that would fall in there as well. But again, and I believe Mott made this point several months ago, that we have 50 less facilities than we used to have, something like 35 less operators and the same amount of staff. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of staff, but I am saying maybe we should sit back and take a look at that and see if that's really where we should be. That's it.
Yep. Christy?
Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Hold on, Derek. Christy? Listen for.
So again, I think we're okay with active participation of expansion. The hiring it's very dictated, particularly the union positions. I also, because of the union, because of everything that, and I know there's been conversations with you and the director and Greg, we can't just eliminate positions. It's not how the union and the civil service and all of that works. There's a process involved. So we cannot put anything in the rules that is going to contradict, the rules of DAS and hiring and laying off or anything of that nature.
We've cut number of staff before. And
Madam
I'm not
Chair,
saying to let people go. Go ahead. Who was Derek was in there too.
This is Greg. Sorry. So what? Yeah, the part about reduction, it's and the director has explained it a little bit, but the director can't, because of contracts and bargaining unit. The director can't just unilaterally lay off people in a certain division at a certain position level. So I know, let me finish. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page of where we're coming from. So we have to be very careful when you guys say staffing levels and reduction, that we are not in conflict or not, that gets a little gray, and we might have to work with legal and make sure from our labor relations department that we don't write something that would go against the contract or be in violation of the contract. That's all Christy's saying, that we have to be very careful. We just don't, with our union agreements, we don't have unilateral, going through a layoff, he can't just pick, if it's decided we don't need 3 people in Columbus, it's a whole statewide process is what I'm saying. So unfortunately, it's more complicated than it sounds like it would be, but that's why we get it. It gives us pause for a second when we talk about reduction of staff.
Okay, Derek, I know you're here, Derek. We have not, at any time has this committee ever requested or made any statement about laying off people. I want to make that clear. We have not ever once talked about laying off people. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about backfilling positions. reducing staff, when there's things through attrition, things like that. Obviously what Christy said, expanding. So that's the type of thing.
The internet connection was lost at this point. The recording will resume after the connection is re-established.
Can't give away or agree to something that would be in conflict with the contract in terms of recommending or actively participating on, and we can call it reductions, but it would be a layoff if it's somebody that's currently working. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. I have no problems with active participation around backfills, and if we need to refill old positions, if there's expansion or not, or if there is having active participation on restructuring a position like we did for Amy. So I don't have a problem with it. And thank you, Annette, because I was getting ready to point out, the discussions with the director, Maria, our CFO, is going to come to the next meeting and talk about our budget and what percentages are of what, how much we pay for certain things that don't get charged to the program that are paid for. So we'll have some good conversation, I think, the next time about what Derek and Tom have brought up. So, all right, I will stop talking.
Okay, so let's do a number 12 under J. And letter 12 should say something along the lines of establishing appropriate staffing levels. Does that cover it, you guys think, at least for the rules? I know it doesn't cover all of our other concerns with the pandemic and the budget and all that today, but for the rules.
So that's under active participation, Madam Chair.
Pardon me?
That's under active participation,
Yes.
then?
Yes.
Okay.
It's under that whole list of stuff about,
Right.
known proposals and disputes with grantors and all that. There would be a 12.
I think that's a good idea.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Doug.
as an operator in this program, I'd be most interested in the percentage of our budget that currently is going to staffing, as opposed to 100% of the revenue that comes into our program.
Yep.
I know that 21% is what we contribute, if I'm correct, if my memory's solid on that point, as a result of the 2000 discussions. But I'm unfamiliar with just how much of our budget is currently being used to pay staff. I'd like to know that.
Well, we're going to have a
Madam
big
Chair.
talk about that on the 8th. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Doug, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, Doug, it's kind of
go ahead.
unfair to gauge that right now, only because I get where Derek was coming from too, but it's just kind of unfair to gauge that right now because we have unprecedented drops in revenue that we are very hopeful will be recovering. The big question is going to be, do we have enough in the bank to weather the storm till it picks back up? So that's all. Thanks, Chair.
Well, that's why I asked the question that I asked, because that is a very huge concern right now, is the fact that we don't have the revenue that we did coming in. So at the present time, I still stand with my question, and we can address that, as Annette says, on the 8th. But thank you for your contribution, Greg.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to talk about all of this on the 8th when Maria's here, and hopefully get a real good understanding about what's going on and everything.
Madam Chair, would you also like to reiterate what the director told you on the last call about funding and budget, and what did he ultimately reassure you regarding the program?
He has said on a couple of occasions, and I've shared this with folks, that he will not allow the BE program to go under. He has assured me of that. He's done it on numerous occasions. So I will say that he said that that's not going to happen. He won't let it happen under his watch. But he feels right now he strongly feels, I'll even say, right now is not the time to panic over the budget. He did offer for Maria to come and explain that to us, why we shouldn't panic over the budget. So that's what she's going to do on the 8th. And he has offered at some point, well, I invited him and he said he would, that he's going to join us at some point himself to talk. But he wanted her to come first. So
great, Madam Chair.
I look forward to that.
Yes. Who was that? Scott?
It's Scott. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to personally go on the record on a couple of different things. I fully support Derek's idea of establishing a ceiling percentage of the amount of budget that is expensed for salaries. You know, there's been so much pushback by the Bureau, and I agree with them. I don't personally care. I don't mean to put it that way. I don't necessarily think that we should be involved in active participation when it comes to the administrative, how many positions are filled, backfilled, everything like that. My sole concern is how much of our budget, what percentage of our budget is being consumed by salary. And to Jeff's point of talking about us being able to weather the bad situation that we're in, unfortunately, if you listen to the statistics, we might be facing, things might get substantially worse with COVID before it gets better. And I hate the idea that we keep pushing this back. I really wish that we could establish, you know, offload the budgetary concerns for salary out of our budget. I'm sorry, I'm frustrated right now because I just feel like we're digging ourselves deeper and deeper in a hole, and there's no solution to this. I really do believe that we have to sit down and consider the fact of budgetary changes, removing budgetary constraints from us for salaries. The Bureau can do whatever they want with the number of positions that they want and how much they want to pay, but you know, how much does it reflect on our budget is my concern. That's my point.
Madam Chair?
Yeah. Who was somebody? Christy, was that you?
No, it was me, Laura.
Oh, Laura. Okay, I'm sorry.
I was wondering, in your conversations with Director Miller, did you explain to him that, is he aware that we have been turning down opportunities left and right and even had to forego a signed agreement because we don't have enough money in our budget to get the equipment and install equipment and so forth to take these opportunities on that are coming our way, and that some of these changes, people don't want to hear it. We don't know to what extent, but some of these, our program is not going to look like it did before, and we need these new opportunities. So when there's no budget for anything else, is he aware that, you know, staff is using all of our revenue? And to reiterate, nobody wants anyone to get fired. Half of us are out of work and not making any money. Nobody wants that for anybody else. But if at some point they're going to have to pay staff out of another budget, why not do that now so we can use our revenue to save our program? Because we need to do things now. So I guess that's the frustration. And it's not that anybody wants anybody to lose their job. It's that we can't afford this.
I can't speak to what the director's aware of. I know we've had discussions about that stuff and how what he understands or you know, I don't know. I know we've said those things to him. And he does seem concerned. I won't say he doesn't, but he seems to feel strongly that we're not in that bad of a financial situation. So,
Madam Chair.
I'm in that
Yes.
bad of a financial situation.
John. Well, I meant
So I have a
program.
I have a question and a comment.
Yeah.
Are we able to get newer budgetary numbers before next Friday? First of all, is my one question. Then also, can I ask Greg a question specifically?
Yeah, you can.
I want to.
We'll
Okay.
share the budget with. I don't mind the budget numbers going out to everybody. It comes to the committee.
Can we see newer numbers than what we have last? Because I've seen the last budget. What I want to ask Greg is, I know that the governor's put a no layoff clause in for a while. Is it possible to move staff from one department to another, or is that not allowed by union rules?
So, okay, a couple things that I just kind of want to, it's not as simple because depending on the position description, what it's classified as. So it would seem like that should be easy, but it's not because of position descriptions, pay ranges. So, and this is kind of out of, I'm trying to say this and craft my words carefully, but you're treading into areas that are out of your purview in terms of increasing staffing levels for other programs, and taking money from other programs where, there's other budgetary concerns. And so I appreciate and I understand the discussion, and that's why the director we've scheduled Maria to come. So I feel like we can have much more of this discussion, and she'll have much more information for this discussion I forget what day that is. Is that the 8th?
The 8th is what Christy told us.
So, and she can answer your questions around percentages and what we pay for, what we don't pay for, and do a deep dive with you guys on where our budget's at, what's coming in, what's going out, and projections going forward.
Okay. I know we steered off the rule, but it's such an important topic that we wanted to air that stuff. And I said, we'll definitely get deeper into it on the 8th. So, Rick, did you get that sentence in? Rule J12, I think it would be.
Yeah, sorry, I'm messing with my mute button here.
Oh.
So I think, I think I'd feel more comfortable waiting I'll note it in here, but I think this definitely warrants further discussion based on what we talked about here.
Okay. I don't know why that would be, because you've already pretty well agreed that everything was fine what talked about expansion and backfilling and all that, but okay.
Yeah, we'll need to talk a little bit more. There are some additional legal considerations that I need to look into. I want to manage, everybody's expectations here as well, that I have to do a little bit more research into this.
Madam Chair,
Okay. Yes, Tom.
I think as a committee, we need to maybe sit down and have a discussion about if we're not going to get the input that we're looking for, or there's going to be some negotiation on that. We need to figure out a maximum that our program can sustain to pay staff, a maximum portion of our budget. And as a committee, I think we're going to have to recommend to the Bureau that this be the maximum of our dollars that be spent on these things, because we are entitled to active participation regarding the budget of this program. And right now, that is the largest expense this program suffers, and we're being told you don't have a right to participate in that. And if that's the case, that's fine, but we do have a right to say how much is a reasonable amount to spend. And it's up to them to live within that amount or us to negotiate that amount and come to terms. But this cannot continue.
Absolutely. Well, we'll make sure that they want to talk about it more. So,
Hey, Madam Chair.
yes,
It's
Jeff.
Jeff. Can I say one quick thing? I just want you all in the committee to know, for those that weren't around or involved in it, we inked this agreement in good faith with the Bureau. Revenue was not an issue at the time. The program had a substantial amount of business. We were a very as efficiently run as we could be organization. Maybe we should have looked down the road 20 years to the pandemic or whatever, but you know, at the end of the day, I think it was understood that we would fund the staffing of this program at the 22% level that the program would be able to afford to. You know, that was the bottom line. We could afford to do that at the time. And I always kind of hoped in the back of my mind, and again, a lot of things have not turned out this way with other issues, but that the Bureau would at some point come in and say, yes, we recognize the program is 30% smaller now. The staffing needs to be 30% smaller, and we will achieve that through these means, be it not backfilling, be it not creating positions, whatever it might be. That's the part of this that I feel like maybe we don't feel like we have a good seat at, but I just want everyone to know that when this thing was inked years ago, it was done to save the program, and we didn't sell out the program. We tried to save it. So, you know, hopefully we come to some kind of understanding with the Bureau about it, though.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so we know we got to come back to that at some point. BE may invite the OVRC to attend meetings with third parties concerning BE issues, programs, and policies, and all meetings at which decisions will or may be made concerning any matter that would require the active participation of OVRC. Nothing in this rule prohibits the BSBI director from administering the program and making any and all ordinary decisions regarding the administration of the program. And that's the end of Rule 12. Okay. What time is it here anyway? 12:20. Well, we can probably get through 13 and 14 pretty easily. They're both short. 13, license denial, suspension, or revocation. BSBAI may deny, revoke, or suspend a license upon proof that the licensee or applicant engages in fraud, material deception, or material misrepresentation as an applicant or as a licensee in the BE program, pleads guilty to or is convicted of a criminal activity, carries or possesses a firearm or concealed weapon in violation of law, regulation, or policy at the licensee's facility, is under the influence of alcohol or illegal substances or abused controlled substances at the workplace, or otherwise knowingly fails to maintain a drug-free work environment. Is deemed to be mentally incompetent. Cannot perform an operator's duties as described in Rule 4 of the Administrative Code. Pursuant to paragraph E of Rule 9 of the Administrative Code. The operator or licensee no longer meets the definition of an individual who is blind or visually or legally blind. Has had the BOA terminated at least 2 times pursuant to paragraph C of Rule 3304-6 of the Administrative Code. We got to stop there. Paragraph C. 2 times pursuant to paragraph C of 6 of the administrative code. Paragraph C, isn't that all the things that can terminate a bureau operator agreement, Rick? In Rule 9?
Yes, so paragraph C of 6 is the one that starts off, the BSBI director may terminate the BOA for the following reasons.
Okay, we gotta watch this then, because one of those reasons is basically an operator resigning. So if a BOA has terminated at least 2 times pursuant to all of those things, the program could go after their license.
Right.
Yeah, we got to fix that. Because the termination of a BOA is not always a bad thing. You know, a BOA terminates when you transition. One of those things is all other things in this rule, which would be like Rule 7 during a transition. You know, so according to this thing, the Bureau could go after your license if you transition twice.
Madam Chair, right now the rule, can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Right now the rule states
We hear you, Christy.
Has had a BOA terminated at least 2 times pursuant to paragraphs G1, G2, G6, and G7 of the 12106. So I think what we need to do is go back and marry up those, or at a minimum put something where the exception being resignation in lieu of. But right now it does have that, and this has been the rule, that it's a BOA terminated at least 2 times pursuant to Rule 6 of G1, 2, 6, and 7.
Yeah, the bad things that operate. If an operator does bad things, not the BGA being terminated or the operator resigning or a transition. You know, BOAs terminate for all those things. That, you know, are not bad things. Well, not bad things that the operator did anyway.
Right. So what's not included in there was G3, which is termination of the BGA, whether voluntary or involuntary. We didn't include that. That's not included in the current rule. What is failure of the operator to pay any fee required through the BOA, BGA, or permit failure. Number 2, of an operator to submit an MOR inventory at the designated location by the close of business 15th. 6 is for reasons noted in paragraph F of this rule with active participation, which is the suspension. And 7 is failure of the operator to successfully complete an operator performance improvement plan. So I think we can go back and at least mirror what we have now in the new rule.
Okay. Then as otherwise specified in this chapter is the other thing. The BSBI director shall notify the licensee and copy OVRC of the proposed action basis for the action and the hearing proceeds pursuant to chapters blah, 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 of the revised code. And that's all of Rule 13. So, Rule 14, a licensee or authorized representative may grieve in writing an action taken by the BE program directly against the grievant or an action or inaction that affects the overall administration of the BE program. The grievance must be received by the BE manager or designee within 90 calendar days of when the date the grievant became or reasonably should have become aware of the action taken. Only OVRC, by a majority vote, may grieve in writing any action or inaction it believes violates the BE program's obligation to actively participate with OVRC. The grievance must be received by the BE manager or designee within 90 days of when OVRC knew or reasonably should have become aware of the action taken or inaction it believes violates the obligation to actively participate. Neither licensees nor OVRC may grieve employment decisions made by the BE program or ministerial decisions made by the BE program. BSVI shall determine if the grievance is filed in accordance with this section and Chapter 119 of the Ohio Revised Code. BSVI's decision shall not be subject to an administrative hearing. The denial of a grievance as not being filed in accordance with this section or Chapter 119 of the Ohio Revised Code shall be subject to a motion for reconsideration. Any motion for reconsideration shall be received by the BE manager within 15 calendar days from the date the notice of denial was sent to the licensee. If a denial of a grievance is reversed and the grievance is accepted, the BE manager shall offer the licensee the opportunity to attend an informal meeting. Okay, everyone get all that? Okay. If a grievance is timely and filed in accordance with this section and Chapter 119 of the Ohio Revised Code proper, the BE manager shall contact the grievant after notice of the grievance to determine if the grievance can be resolved informally. The grievant shall be provided with an informal meeting within 60 calendar days of the receipt of the grievance. The BE manager or designee shall provide a written summary of the informal meeting to the grievant and the BSVI director or designee within 30 calendar days of the informal meeting with notice of appeal rights pursuant to Chapter 119 of the Revised Code. If the grievant remains dissatisfied with the outcome of the informal meeting, the grievant may request a hearing. Requests for hearings pursuant to Chapter 119 must be in writing and received by the director of BSVI within 30 calendar days of the date of receipt of the informal decision. The hearing will be held before hearing officers on contract with OOD. A record of the hearing shall be made by OOD. Any party may request a transcript from a court reporter and shall be responsible for the cost. Time limits established in this rule may be extended by mutual agreement of the parties. And that is the end of Rule 14.
Madam Chair, it's Jeff.
Yes.
Did we, okay, the proper thing, if a grievance is proper, did we just decide to drop that? I apologize for not remembering, but I know there was considerable discussion about that word proper. If a grievance is proper.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, this is Rick. I could address
okay,
that.
go ahead.
That word that was awkwardly in there, that was the typo. So Jeff, you're right.
Oh.
We took out proper after our discussion last time. And all
Okay.
that clarified it by saying in compliance or in accordance with Chapter 119 of the Ohio Revised Code.
There we go. Yeah, because it made it sound like somebody would be judging, you know, for any determinable reason.
We didn't like
why.
proper.
Okay, awesome. Yep, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, but it did kind of read funny to boot. So, so that's where we are with that. If the Bureau, at least at this point, determines that something, we'll say timely, so that's the big key one that everybody knows and understands and argues about. If something is timely, the grievant will have the opportunity to kind of plead their case on timeliness. Not on the grievance itself, that'll go through the process, but on timeliness. If somebody determines it's untimely, and the operator believes, or the grievant believes that they can kind of go to the director and say, hey, here's why I believe this is timely. So,
I'm glad that's in there. That's a good thing.
Yes. Yes. So, all right. So all we would have left through this pass would be the definitions and the appendix. And I would encourage everybody to go through and find anything in the rules that in this draft that we need to look at again. If there's anything, like I found something at the end of Rule 4 where the Bureau put that contingency plan in there. We agreed on the idea, I believe, but the wording was kind of wonky in the thing that was put in. So just examples like that, to kind of look at and try and find things that don't seem right for the next couple of meetings.
Annette, Madam Chair.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so just real quick so we all understand, because at some point, I'm sure we're all going to want to try to organize some kind of rule revision meeting with our constituency. When, right now, would you suspect we will have in the Bureau's draft ready for public consumption?
I would think we're getting fairly close. We've gone through several rules that we have these couple of big issues, the one we just talked about in Rule 12 today, and there was probably a couple other things where we had pins in that we need to knock around some.
Okay.
There's definitely some language issues still out. The seniority thing, I know we still have outstanding out there, how to handle that.
That's fine. I just wanted to get an idea. Are we looking at maybe thinking about scheduling our meetings in late January, early February? They're probably going to be virtual, obviously, but I have a pretty big area to try to collect everybody into. So I just want to make sure I do it far enough ahead that it's organized.
Yeah. Bureau folks, is that what you're thinking too? Yoo-hoo. Everyone's muted. Whoever's talking.
Yeah, everyone's muted. Madam Chair, yeah, I mean, we've gone through things at least 3 times. We're on version 5 of virtually everything. Again, the definitions, the only thing that I have in there that we need to circle back is the seniority defined. I don't know. I don't see why it can't be finished up, our part finished up by the next meeting, January 8th.
Well, like I said, we have a couple big things, and if everybody looks through the draft that Christy sent out, with the exception of the couple things we decided to change today, that should be the most recent draft. And we'll look through that and see if it's something we can all live with. They said that thing in Rule 12 is going to be that we're not done with that discussion yet. So,
Madam Chair, it's Jeff. That's why I was going to ask, should we request a final emailing of, I know Christy and Sally both sent it to me last time we had the rules meeting. I just want to make sure everybody has got the most up-to-date one.
Oh, absolutely. These are, when we're, if it is the next meeting, when we're done and all of us have said we're at least satisfied. And everyone may not be satisfied with every line of every rule. We're never going to get there, but at least as a group that we're satisfied in general with what we have, then it should by all means go out to everybody.
No, okay, Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I meant in consideration of between now and the 8th. If the committee, does everybody feel like they have access to the latest copy of these, barring the changes today that we said? You know what I'm saying? I just want to make sure, because why didn't have that copy? You know, I just want to make sure.
So, Madam Chair, last week we sent everyone everything. I believe there was one committee member, and I forget who, that had a problem with it going out in the whole entire distribution list. It might have been Tom. But we have sent out everything, and that's what you had brailled, you and Scott. We can send over the changes that we did today. We could send that out later today or tomorrow. Is that helpful?
Madam Chair, I just don't want anyone saying, well, I didn't see that. That wasn't in my copy, or you know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, we had fairly minor changes today. Yes, Tom.
I just want to throw out there, I always advocate for everyone to have everything, so it was not me that requested limited distribution.
Oh. Yep. Yeah, once you have the changes from today, I would send that out.
So, Madam Chair, I think just to avoid confusion, we're going to make the changes from today and send everything back out. Everything. So everyone,
okay.
Awesome.
You know, we're just going to resend it out. Is that okay?
That's terrific.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Anyone have anything else for today? All right.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Okay, Doug.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Jeff, do you plan on having a district meeting for those who want it?
Yeah, Doug, that's what I was saying earlier. I wanted to know what the timeline, in Annette's opinion, was looking like, so I would know when to start planning for that meeting, Doug. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Well, let's you and I get together on the phone. I can assist you with that.
That's fine. I want a round estimate first before I get too far into trying to, because I'll ask Tom to help us with that too. So
yeah,
probably.
Sounds good.
Okay, Doug.
All right.
Good.
I'm done.
Well, we'll get ready to go. Before we go, I would like to congratulate Vicki on her pending retirement. And
Lucky ducky.
Yeah. Yeah, and we appreciate working with her all this time, and excuse me, and
yes.
just, you know, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
And the best of luck to you.
Thank you.
In the future. And on top of that, everybody have a happy new year. Let's get 2020 out of here.
Indeed.
Let's get it behind us.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Vicki. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.